All right, it looks like we are online. We are ready for the Gaytriarchy, where I don't have to do the intro anymore. That intro that I used to do was kind of a pain in the ass, and since I got into doing it in a certain way, which was actually really tedious to do it, I am just not gonna do it at all. And I just get to say whatever I really want. I was kind of like ripping off honey badgers in the way that I really liked their intro, where they were talking about we are the survivors of the zombie apocalypse. And so I wanted to have a cool intro too, but mine was never really that good because I was like, oh God, how do I do something appropriate? And so I just sort of was doing something that, and then it ended up taking on a life of its own. That was kind of a stupid life. So, yeah.
You kind of hastily scratched it, and then you were just bound to it because you're like, "Oh shit, that was in stone now." Because I want to make it the intro.
Yeah, or something. So here's the deal. Chadwick is I'm choosing to believe that he's late. His phone is dead, and or not picking up. But no, it does not seem that it seems like his phone is dead, and I don't know. Maybe the Antifa's got him. Maybe they finally got him. I don't know. I really don't know because he was writing messages to me. Like he had ideas for this episode of the show. And he's been on my channel twice, so it's not like he would want to flake. I like to believe something's going on and that he will be here soon enough. But I don't want to keep people waiting for like longer than 15 minutes or whatever. So yeah, now we are started.
And Prince, I think you're roboting.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, you're definitely robot. That's what I'm hearing on my ear.
Yeah, your sound is all messed.
Yeah, now that I've heard, no, it's definitely you. I'm not sure
Hold on.
Unplug and replug the mic in maybe, or how do people usually fix that? It was weird because I feel like when you first started after going live, it was fine, and then it just decided to robot like a few seconds in. And we have our good friend Josephat in the chat. Just like old times last year on the Gaytriarchy podcast. So that's what I like to do. I like hanging out in the live chat.
Space.
See, and Princess. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you were bringing up some topics before.
Well, no, there was just one thing on my mind because I had just watched AIU's video about Mercedes Carrera, and I was kind of sitting there like, "Oh, this looks." The thing is it's kind of like you don't want to comment on it because it's still almost in fudge rule territory. Which, have you heard of the fudge rule? I just learned about it. I guess it's been a thing for a while. I guess the idea is you wait at least 24 hours before commenting on things. Now, the Carrera news has been more than 24 hours, but the idea is that there's always like some sort of correction or it turns out to be bullshit or whatever. So you just like reserve judgment on breaking news stories for at least 24 hours. So there you go. That's the fudge rule. I'm not sure why it's called the fudge rule. I'm trying to like imagine it myself. Like, does it have to do with like it takes that long for like fudge to harden or something? And I've never made fudge, so I don't really know why it's called that. And there's surprisingly like little information. Just lots of people hashtagging it, kind of sparsely, but there you go. Maybe you heard it here first. That's what the fudge rule is, sorta. But anyway, with Mercedes Carrera, yeah, I guess it's fudging the facts. Thank you, AJ Devlin in the chat. That makes a lot more sense. Man, I could have thought of that instead of revealing that I don't know how to make fudge. and have no idea 24 hours is significant to that. Maybe I was just hungry when I read it and I thought this has to do with food, I bet. But yeah, that story is pretty crazy. And it looks like regardless of the truth of the major allegations, they've already found, you know, like weapons and drugs and shit in their place. So it seems like an inevitability that they're having some kind of charge. So the whole thing's a real shame. Are you familiar with Mercedes Carrera, like from Gamergate?
Not terribly.
See, me neither. I kind of only knew her name. I knew that, you know, she had kind of like done the circuit. Like she's like been on a lot of different like YouTube channels and stuff. And I remember Karen, she had like made a post when the allegations were kind of like breaking, saying that like, you know, yes, if true, like we're gonna have to like disavow her. And I mean, she has her own statement about it, but also reminding everyone that, you know, obviously you have to wait for the facts to come in because we can't forget, you know, that what was that thing that's important? Due process. That's right. That's that thing that's really important that kind of gets shortchanged a lot. So it's kind of cool to see that, you know, within this community, it's something that people are very sensitive to. But
oh, okay.
You know,
I think you guys can hear me. I think you guys can hear me.
yeah, and you're not a robot. You've
Okay, that's
regained
good. Okay,
anyway.
I could hear you guys the whole time. I was having problems. So
Yeah, well, that's just my 2 bits about the Mercedes Carrera.
no, you're not done. You're not done.
Yeah.
So explain
Oh,
explain
well,
it to
yeah.
the people as if they don't know, because first of all, that was actually yesterday when I heard about that. And so you are allowed to have the fudge rule thing and at least talk about it. But we have to be fair and balanced, and we have to say, well, there's a small amount of information known about this, which I believe is that her and her boyfriend or husband, who is a adult film producer of sorts in Los Angeles, was arrested on some sort of child molestation charges or something. And that's all I really know about it. I don't really know who she is exactly. All I remember is that she's supposed to be a very, very smart porn star that's sort of an MRA.
That's kind of it in a nutshell, right? I don't even know if it's MRA, mostly just anti-feminist.
Oh.
Yeah, but
right-wing conservative.
I'm one of the MRAs that and I hate doing this because I would obviously never want someone to look down on me based on a title, but I do, like, when I hear that someone's an anti-feminist and not an MRA, I kind of cringe a little bit.
No, totally. I have well, you know how Karen coined the phrase coffee shop feminist. I call people coffee shop anti-feminists, and it almost fits better. Like,
yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. It just seems like being an anti-feminist without being an MRA. It's like, what are you, a hater? Like, that's all you are. And it just seems strange to me, you know?
well, yeah, and I had a friend actually message me an article written from this perspective of people kind of like purple pilling, right? Like they're coming out of the blue pill into the red pill. But like what I just find so unrelatable is that once you discover men's issues, how do you not kind of go to the extreme? Because it's some extreme shit. Like when you look at like these radical feminists doing all these crazy things and being out there, like the coffee shop anti-feminist is always like, oh, I don't like their tone. You know, I don't like what you're. It's always like tone policing. They always say, oh, they would have a great message if only they would just do it in the more palatable way. But I'm sitting there like, no, like if the things they were saying were true, like that's totally justified. Like if half the shit feminists said actually made any sense, like yeah, go like shove a crucifix up your ass and cause a big scene and be a crazy person, because like it would totally be justified. Like, so and MRAs, it's this like weird thing where as bad as feminists make things out for women, you really actually can build a similar case for men. Like things actually really are that bad in a lot of ways.
Things are as bad as feminists act like they are for women, for men.
Yeah, like I stand by that. I actually will defend that hill. And not a lot of people who identify with the men's rights movement would like to say that because they don't, there's obviously a lot of baggage with feminism they don't like, and they don't like
Yeah.
being seen as this mirror to it. But like it's not about tone, it's about the facts. And the bottom line is feminism didn't get it. Like they didn't say like one when it's zero. They said one when it's -1. Like they're in
Yeah. No,
completely
they said when it was -7. That was Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or -9. She wants it to be all 9 justices female on the Supreme Court.
Yep. Because for how many years has it been all men? So we might as well just swing that pendulum back. It reminds me of when I was really little, like when I was
All those fucking lucky ass men that were also having to be drafted for war.
Right. But fuck that part of the story. That doesn't work. Or whatever. That's just for reasons. Woo. But no, I remember like when I first learned about slavery in like elementary school, I thought, oh my God, like to make it fair, does that mean all the black people have to make the white people slaves now? Like,
it's like only if they have a really good idea for what they're going to use us for.
Right. It sort of happened, like if you count taxation. I know a lot of people don't think that's a very sensitive argument, but I don't know, fuck it. Nobody comes to me for a sensitive argument.
Okay, and for the record, I don't even know if I follow the logic, and I don't want to get into it. So just for the record, viewers. But I'm sure that he could make a very interesting video about such a thing. Now, speaking of which, Spaceman, I was thinking that it would be good. Can I give you an assignment for that video that you are supposed to give me for my channel? Well, I am technically, I guess it's in the 2 weeks post my birthday period. Could you make me a video that would be an essay about why people who say that being an MRA is a mirror image of feminism are just completely awful and you hate them?
Oh, absolutely. You know what? Because the last time I made a video for you, it was full. It was basically like a collection of like here's 18 other fucking videos for you to watch because I'm not reinventing the wheel.
But your other video was really good. A lot of people really liked that video.
Yeah, that one I think I actually scripted that one and like kind of read it well, but
yeah.
I'm in like a weird place where when I try to read scripts, I'm less practiced in it than I used to be, so it kind of ends up sounding weird. So I feel like when I non-script things, it sounds a little better. But a lot of people really hate verbal tics. I like things to be a little bit rough and shitty and unfinished. I kind of like that about YouTube. But anyway, but yeah, I have all kinds of shit to say about that. I remember they had a big conversation about it on HBR like years ago, back in like, well, I think that was in 2015. It was called Mirror Mirror. And there is actually a lot of like really interesting kind of back and forth and discussions in there, particularly between Anna Cherry and Hannah Wallen on that one. So I'll probably that just to make sure I don't miss anything really important.
Well, it is a very, very complex issue. Like I think I tried to do a video doing it justice within maybe, like, I think I might have tried to do 2 actually within maybe the first 2 or 3 months, and then the first 6 months of my channel. And I found each time that I was kind of out of my depth just because I didn't know enough at that point in my gender issue education, I guess. I just didn't really know a whole lot of things. And there's so many different things to keep in mind. Like, for example, feminists are they are inseparably tied up with Marxists. And what, hear me?
Oh. You cut off for a bit. You said that so feminists are tied up with Marxists because they're fucking paper mache out of Marxist scraps.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's even weirder than that. Like, so one of the things that the guy who wrote the book Rules for Radicals, forget his name off the top of my head. What's that guy's name? Do you guys remember him?
Ooh, it escapes me. Starts with an S.
Yeah. God, just Saul
Saul
Alinsky.
Alinsky.
Yeah, he I believe was actually okay. Did he know Marx? Okay, Saul Alinsky Marx. No, he couldn't have known Marx because Marx died before he was born. But I think okay, there's something that Saul Alinsky was like. I mean, he's obviously been very influential in to Marxists, and one of the things that Marxists have always done has been to kind of accuse your opponents of what you what he said to always accuse your opponent of what you're actually up to. And so it would make for perfect sense that the feminists who are trying to deny men of certain rights would claim that the women don't have that right. That would be an exact strategy that would come right from this playbook. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. Well, that makes perfect sense. But like, I think that they've been doing it for so much longer than that, right? So I feel like there's something that happens on like a deeper psychological level where they kind of are somewhat self-aware on one level, but then because they don't want to believe that, they just start projecting it onto men. And the irony is that this big dialogue within SJWism, progressivism, identity politics has to do with the other, right? But if you want the best example of like otherizing in practice, definitely men. Like it doesn't there's nothing that compares. Like any gender issue, any race issue, any sexual orientation issue, nothing compares to the sort of otherizing in regards to men.
Okay. Yeah. I would say that that's definitely true. There's no attempt to at all put oneself in the shoes of what men actually experience, like at all in any way. It's just like they have a lot more empathy for their dogs, like by a landslide. So yeah, there's definitely that. I would say though that the people who have been most influential in the feminist movement over the past, I mean, I'm sorry, I hate being the person that keeps referencing my own fucking video, but I'm going back to my intersectional feminism as communist particle board. The people who were the most influential were the women that were more communist than they were feminists, and then just kind of decided to jump to the feminist ship because the communist ship was sinking. And they knew perfectly well that they were not actually trying to come up with any sort of like equality and fairness between the genders. What they were trying to come up with was a complete and utter like restructuring of the political system. And so feminism, coming up with a way of saying that women were oppressed by the males and blah blah, that just seems like some sort of a Trojan horse dummy argument of a sort to try to use to hopefully destroy the capitalist prosperity, which was the West. And so these people were saying things that they probably didn't even believe at all, and they didn't really care, is what I would guess.
Well, it goes back to the idea of words as magic spells. They're saying words because they want an effect, and the meaning of the words be damned. They're looking for an effect, and they're really good at knowing what to say to get the intended effect.
Yeah. And yes, feminism always did have communist principles, Black Knight Fool, in the way that feminism was coined by a socialist. So to a certain degree, it's always been very, very closely knit. So Spaceman, what were you saying about Cortez's something being deleted or something? I didn't hear.
Oh yeah. That was so recently she's been in the news because they promoted this thing called the New Green Deal or the Green New Deal or whatever.
Yeah, it was just
and everybody been making fun of it, like because it's just so off the rails, completely fucking insane, like totally divorced from reality. And it looks like what's happened. I just saw this retweeted from, I think it was Tim Pool and other people commenting on it, that they had like an FAQ sheet on her website that they've taken down, and it looks like they're pretending that like they didn't post it. Like they're saying that like it was a mysterious FAQ that oh, we don't have nothing to do with it. And it's like, bitch, it was on your website. Like, how dumb do you think we are?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I don't know. I just feel like the Democratic Party is like, they would be having to play some amazing, like it wouldn't be just like 4D chess or whatever. It would have actually be like they have discovered the fifth and sixth dimensions, and they are like playing with the magical, like metaphysical reality that we don't understand yet. And that would be how they would actually win 2020. You know, like after Trump's State of the Union being so well received, and how it's not even so much that Trump's State of the Union was inherently great by himself. Like if he had that State of the Union address out of his own office without all the other people in it, then it wouldn't have, I don't think, been nearly so well received. But when people got to see just how weird the Democrats were with their little KKK robes, and the fact that they wouldn't applaud for the lowest unemployment in history for racial minorities at all, but they would applaud for themselves, like, oh yeah, you go girl, we the ladies, you know. And like it just shows just how, you know, I was actually thinking about this before the stream. Like I should make a whole video about why, and this is this would be the way that I can finally make this video is being illustrated by this point of the Congress women of the Democratic Party refusing to take responsibility. Like it would have been so easy for them, even though maybe they didn't necessarily have anything to do with the fact that racial minorities are at their lowest unemployment ever. They could have at least clapped and then taken all the credit. They could have been like, well, that wasn't because of Trump, that was because of us. You know, like they could have easily done that. Like nothing would have stopped them from doing that. Right. But they couldn't bring themselves to do it, because that is just how vengeful they are of him. And it's how, it's because that's how vengeful they are of him, to the point where it didn't even occur to them that they could like actually capitalize upon that moment as politicians. And what that shows to me is that, okay, so, you know, one of my big talking points is that the left is all massive racists. Like, and I don't mean that they are all racists towards white people. That is not what I mean. They are racists. They are racists towards everybody. The only people that they might not be racist towards is occasionally black people, except for then that means them condemning black people to the hell of like communism or something, you know? So it's like not, it's kind of not exactly not racism, you know, but that's what it seems to be to me. And the entire motivation of the left trying to call people out for racism, it comes from the fact that they all know that deep down that they're racist. It's all projection. And what they're trying to do is they're thinking that as long as they are pointing fingers at somebody else, nobody's going to point the finger at them. And that moment illustrated that more than anything, that you know, it's never occurred to them to just not be racist, to really, really, really deeply work on themselves to potentially not be racist. It's always about appearing not racist, and always about hopefully just not being accused of being racist, and, you know, being on the winning team that is going to accuse other people of it. And that was that moment of being like, oh crap. Like they realized in that moment that it was going to become really, really difficult for them to forever be accusing Donald Trump of racism. And that's probably why they weren't sharing. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. Like and it's sad because you'd think that a politician would be a little bit more opportunistic. I feel sad that I'm just like, how come my politicians aren't opportunistic enough? It's like it's wrong. Like, what timeline is? But I mean, I'm all for seeing them lose. But yeah, I mean, I made like a whole rant about like the white dresses because like they pissed me off so much, and I know they've been doing it for a while, but just like what upsets me about it is it's not just the politicians. The people who elected these people to do this, they don't perceive an issue with them supporting the suffragettes. Like to me, it's
Oh
just
yeah, like they don't know that they're total racists.
You know, like for example, someone in the comment mentioned like, oh, they forgot their hoods, and like so many people have been making that comparison because it's so obvious, right? Democrats and the KKK, haha. But and like, yeah, that's a valid point. But I'm sitting there like, honestly, the suffragettes are bad enough. Like, you don't even have to compare that. They're comparing themselves to the suffragettes, and in my mind, the suffragettes really are not much better than the KKK. Arguably worse because they were more effective. Like the KKK is a fucking joke. It's like a fucking weird fraternal organization. They name their shit Grand Wizards and shit. Like they're a fucking joke. But the suffragettes,
they ended up on Jerry Springer, and the suffragettes basically ended up becoming Hillary Clinton. Like, okay.
Exactly. And they're taken so seriously, but like they are on paper a supremacist movement. And I know some people don't like that language. They think that it's too divisive and pushes things too far. But I'm sorry, the fact that we haven't seen a popular movement by women to try to get some sort of social obligation. All we've seen are excuses. There's no social obligation tied to their right to suffrage. Men don't have the right to suffrage. Men don't have a right to suffrage that's comparable to the right that women have. And every single time someone like me brings it up, they make up these excuses about how, oh, well, women can't fight in combat. And it's like, bitch, use your fucking brain and think of something then. Like, if you could think of a reason for why that one doesn't work, why can't you be burdened to think of some sort of reciprocal obligation that makes sense in your mind? Like, why do the anti-feminists have to do all of the work? So I don't know. I got really blackpilled on women's suffrage over that because it's just, what do you fucking do with that? What do you do with that?
Yeah. What are you left with when you realize just how unwilling they are to take on any responsibility at all, even a somewhat equivalent, like even a consolation prize?
They're literally clapping and applauding the fact that they have this right, and they're proud of having a right. They're not proud of accomplishing anything. They're proud of having a right and being given shit. And I can't.
Yeah, it's like your sister and you getting in an argument over like maybe you were fighting over the last cookie or something, and then like your sister like hits you, and then you hit her back, and she starts crying. You get in trouble, and then she gets the cookie, and then she sits around like, and you're on timeout, and she sits around eating it in front of you, going ha ha, and flicking you off or something. It's like,
oh my god, I'm so glad you brought this. So I have it's a brief parable. This is a true story, but it is a parable. If you'll indulge me, it's worth it, trust me. So you have a brother and a sister, right? And the sister realizes she can do this thing where she can like break a blood vessel in her nose and start having a nosebleed. And she huffs herself up and starts to cry. And she uses this newfound power to just like extort her brother all the time, right? Like give me that toy, like, dude, that's whatever, or else I'm gonna do the nose thing. It's like, no, don't do the nose thing. They're gonna think I hit you, right? Because who are they gonna fucking believe? She has a bloody nose, right? They're gonna be like, she just did this to herself, and he's like, yes. But so eventually she's about to do it, and he just shrugs and just punches her in the nose. And she stopped doing it. And it's the perfect metaphor for the pimp hand. You know, we've seen a century without the pimp hand, and it brings in dark times. And the really beautiful, merciful thing about the pimp hand is it doesn't need to come out all the time. You know, one good solid pimp hand, the right timing, will usher in, you know.
For the record, this is very much metaphorical. This Gaytriarchy live streams does not endorse actual acts of physical violence. I think that this is a metaphorical explanation for the ways that in which men can figure out something with the legal system that would be the equivalent of that or something.
Yes, I have a philosophy degree. It is a philosophy degree. This is the wisdom I've learned is pimp hand. You can stamp it with a philosophical lens and stamp of approval.
You guys, I have to,
Philosophically.
I'm gonna mute myself. I have to go to the bathroom and grab some water.
All right. I gotta mute myself and grab some coffee, but I'll wait for you to get your water because, you know.
No. Okay. Space Pan, that's not how this works. We don't go to the bathroom at the same time. You hold down the fort.
No, I know that's what I meant. That's what I was alluding to. But hey, we have a very active live chat too. That always makes me happy, and a lot of familiar faces, like Black Knight Fool is always in there. Warlord Basil, I don't think I've seen you here before, but forgive me if you have been here and I just forgot. Let's see. Anything else in the news? Anything else that's been going on that's very interesting? I wish Prince had gave us the list he sent to Chadwick, because then we could like grab something off of it. What I've been doing for the past like week, and I've become like the worst person ever because it's all I want to talk about, is I've been listening to these streams about this book written by this guy named Russell Greer about why he's suing Taylor Swift. And it's
stalker.
Like, he's basically like a stalker. Yeah, the short version is he went to jail for terroristic threats.
English Premier League, Europa League, French League.
What's that? What was that from? Was that a tab? Did only I hear that?
No.
It sounds like a GPS thing or something. But anyway, he goes to jail for like terroristic threats and has a come to Jesus moment, which for him was getting really, really into Taylor Swift's music. And then he decides that he can get her attention by writing music for her, and her agents are just like, she can't accept musical gifts. And he's like, you're discriminating against me because my face doesn't work right. That's like his disability and how he's triumphing over the odds. And like he's sued her multiple times as an attempt to definitely not go on a date with her. And anyway, it escalates and gets more and more crazy. And like, this is all verified true because he posted everything that he did on Facebook. And like, there's all the court documents and people have been following him for like years. So it's just like the funniest, craziest spectacle ever. So I've been listening to that. There's like streams of it on Nick Rekieta's channel, and I just like downloaded all of them, and that's like 24 hours worth of just people making fun of this guy and like reading his book. That's been my week. It's been a great week. I might just listen to it again once I finish it. And then I won't have any news to talk about. It's just every week I'm just gonna be here like, hey guys, did you listen to the Taylor Swift thing yet? Because it's my favorite thing. It's all I want to talk about. My coworkers all hate me now because I'm just like, guys, this Taylor Swift thing, and they're just like, stop.
It just reminds me that there are people out there who will try and make money off of any story, anybody with any kind of notoriety. And I can just imagine that someone approached this guy and said, with the right attitude, we can turn your life into a book and all kinds of great shit.
Oh yeah, like people trying to just like I'm like, yeah, dude, this is a good idea. Definitely sue Taylor Swift. This is smart.
There's no doubt in my mind that he's being coached through all of it. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it though is like definitely his original crazy.
Well, what do you think a coach does? Coach doesn't write it. The coach encourages the person, be as crazy as possible because all of this publicity, we're going to make money off of it. I mean, literally, there's no way he's doing that by himself. There's no way. He's not making any money.
He's definitely not making any money.
There who is totally pimping him out and taking advantage of his mental instability in order to pimp him out. Guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, I might be an awful person, but I say God bless that person because it truly
they're doing the exact same thing to
a gift.
No, but they do it all the time. They're doing the exact same thing to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Like every word that comes out of her mouth is not original. Somebody is scripting her and coaching her, and has been since before she even got elected.
Well, the theory is she's an actress. The theory is she's all in on it, and she's really just an actress.
Well, yeah.
Actually, I like that theory. I kind of buy into that. No, I think she's acting stupid on purpose.
Well, I don't think that part is entirely acting. But no, she's definitely. Did you see the the clip that was
She's
her.
not acting. They purposefully do this with people who are going to come across as innocent. You can't act that.
Well, okay, no, but she's definitely being coached a lot.
Definitely,
Like
but it's her innocence that it's like the fresh face, you know.
Yeah, and that's what's her being a useful idiot, you know.
Exactly.
Like the thing is, I could tell she was acting. I watched just today the they have you can do a search called she did a thing called Let's Play a Game, and it was some speech that she delivered. It's basically about how to get super PACs.
Oh, I watched it. It was so stupid.
Yeah, well, you know, it was actually pretty well delivered. She obviously didn't write it. She didn't come up with the concept herself.
You could tell she didn't even really understand what she was saying.
Yeah, exactly. But it was actually pretty well done. But it's the thing about that is that's one thing that the Democratic.
But the reason it wasn't well done is because what she doesn't realize and nobody realizes is that it was the Democrats that moved all that legislation into place that even made it possible for her to make that point.
Okay. But here's the thing, and this is how she could be in on it and a part of it, in on it at the same time, but being manipulated by other people, and she just doesn't fully understand who she's being manipulated by. I would say that what's most likely going on here is that the full-blown like actual communists, because it is looking pretty clear that like it is not an exaggeration that these are full-blown communists. I don't know if they're working with China or what, you know, like I just don't know, but I wouldn't put it past them because that's on people who have that type of money. They want to somehow get the United States to be some sort of a communist-ish government, and what they are going to do to get power is going to be dissolve the super PAC system, which is how Democrats win elections.
They're going to dissolve the super PAC system, but the Democrats created the super PAC system.
Yeah, because it's not. There's a dramatic rift. It's not okay. The Democrats aren't all communists. Some of them are. Bernie Sanders is. Cortez is. The other intersectionals. Kamala Harris is.
So all the ones getting attention are.
Yeah. And that's probably why. They are being pushed more and more to the forefront because they're getting the big donors, because Hillary Clinton can't pull in the big donors anymore. She got camped after losing the most expensive election in history. So Hillary Clinton was the last connection that the Democratic Party had to big money from their own self. But Obama, spent it all, and Hillary Clinton spent it all. And so where's that big money coming from, if not from those old connections that they used to have? Hillary Clinton, the thing is,
so you think it's coming from the communists?
Yeah, wherever they're getting their money from, which is either from China or from Islamic governments and wealthy Islamic people.
Probably both. So
yeah, probably both. And
so do you think that it's the communists that want to dissolve the super PACs?
Yeah, because that way they can get elected.
Okay. So it's like
because then they could get rid of the Americans, corporations' ability to influence either Republicans or the Democrats.
Right. So it's almost like communists took over the Democratic Party.
Well, they have a shoehorn in.
Mm-hmm. Or they're trying to take it over. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
It does. This kind of feels like good news to me. I'm becoming more and more sympathetic to the black-pilled libertarian, the libertarians hijacking accelerationism from the communists, where we're just like, yeah, let's just let communism get tried so it can fail so that we can make something new later. Like, this is kind of getting hopeless.
Because so that was the first time a speech of hers sounded like somebody who has a brain wrote it.
Mm.
Because it was actually well done, and it was something that they've been developing as their key strategy. As Bernie Sanders was very big on that, dissolve the super PAC thing, get finance, corporate finance out of politics, and it just now occurred to me why they would want to be doing that. and she's proud of being potentially underestimated. Like she's proud, she thinks that that's a cool thing about her, which I think is her overplaying her hand.
Right.
Well, because she doesn't have any other choice, you know? So for her, it's like, of course, that's what you're going to say. You have like one thing you could do, you know? Well, I guess two things. It's either keep overplaying your hand or like fuck off, right?
Well,
but in terms of trying to win, that's like kind of all she has.
How does that play into the Green New Deal? Because that, to me, felt like a hit piece because everybody's ridiculing her for it.
I think that the Green New Deal is probably... I think that they've done a number of things which are really testing the waters, seeing how absurd absurd of things that they can say and get away with them before somebody noticed that this is just like some crazy communist shit. Like, you know, Kamala Hairspray has been saying, like, her first bill that she wanted to introduce on the Senate floor was to and she was talking about this like last year sometime, or maybe even in 2017. She wanted to make it so that anybody detained at our borders of the United States, either by sea, air, or land, has the right to a United States attorney. Like, that's like the most crazy ass open border communist ass shit that you could ever possibly, like, how is this woman elected to any office? That's insane, you know? So like, but it's like, okay, how far did she actually go with that? Is that something that she was just delivering at the Netroots conference or whatever, you know, or is that something that she actually tried to push, you know? Like, and that's what you have to kind of wonder about.
But don't underestimate any of them. They're all pushing this.
Well, they would like it, it seems.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing, though. It's like, here's the thing. I haven't decided, you know, I keep wanting to make my video called was Obama really a communist? Because, you know, there's really, really smart people like David Horowitz, who I had in my video, the Intersectional Feminism as Communist Particle Board, who swears that he is because of his background and everything. And here's the thing. I think that David Horowitz is basically right to make all of those connections and everything. And that Obama, that is Obama's ideology. But I think that really, more than anything, Obama's probably really corrupt. And that somehow he got massive amounts of donations from Soros, like he definitely did. And maybe, well, he must have tied a lot of or shaken a lot of hands with, you know, creepy ass Chinese businessmen and stuff, you know. That much should be pretty clear. You know, if you live on the West Coast in a big city that they own half of the property, it's clearly that happened.
Yeah. Well, he came and fucked over San Francisco. I'm pretty convinced of it.
Well, I don't think it was necessarily Obama personally. It was just sort of a top-down order through all the Democrats.
There was a point when after he got elected, where he came to visit San Francisco, and like it was a big deal, and like met with Mayor Lee and stuff, and that kind of felt like that was the point where it was like, all right, here's the plan for the city, you know. Oh
yeah, they rolled out the red carpet and the bleach or something. Yeah, because I mean, it was.
And how many hot dogs?
So yeah, I mean that makes sense. So yeah. I think that there's a massive amount of corruption, and I think that maybe well, okay. I think that the ultimate thing is that none of these people have a strong enough philosophical understanding of why communism is bad, because if they really, really deeply thought about, you know, what Eastern Europeans have been through as a result of communism and why that is, like what happens if you've ever tried to be somebody who has leadership-ish responsibilities with a group of people, and then you tried to, you know, dole out the responsibilities evenly just to see if you could make it a cooperative venture, and then, oh my God, it all falls apart because you're not being the leader anymore. And that's what happens every time. And I have tried to do that, you know, like I had my little band for a while that was a 4-person band in San Francisco where we tried to act like it was sort of not a thing that was me doing everything, you know, especially we were equals, except for it wasn't. It was, you know, I was the producer. And because of the fact that I wasn't like the official band leader, like they didn't really have that respect for me. It was like the other people just like showed up drunk to rehearsals and everything. And like we ended up breaking up in like 6 months or 7 months or 8 months or something, very short amount of time. And the only thing that, the only progress we made was based around me being just the total, like when I would kind of, I almost said crack the whip, and we did have one black bandmate, so I shouldn't say that. That's not the appropriate terminology. But when I would be the hard ass leader, and I would be like, "No, guys, we're actually," and we would fight over me like yelling at them, you know. But that's the only way we got anything done. And so I realized it was like, no, cooperative ventures don't actually work. And that's why every time I've been on a play or anything that I've worked on that's been successful, there was someone being, you know, sometimes unpleasant, you know, like sometimes
there is a need for a hierarchy. Hierarchies have a purpose. Like they are actually a product of modern society. Without hierarchy, we can't have modern society.
Yeah, well, and there's no meaningful way to get rid of hierarchy either. They form so naturally, and most of them are kind of innocuous. Like it's a really heavy, big term, hierarchy, but it really is as simple as like you go to a store, like the person who is like a clerk is kind of in a hierarchy above you, right? Because they have more authority over that store, even if there's someone who just like organizes stuff and cleans and like changes a couple of signs. like it's that simple.
Yeah. And so
well, and the hierarchy has to be established on competency.
Yeah. And so the thing is that when Obama won based on a non-competency thing, like that was the first time in like essentially in recorded history that the identity politics vote won. You know, I mean, I'm sure it's worked in some stupid ass elections that don't really matter that much, but it won the important election. You know, now granted, he was a really good orator. The Republicans were at probably you know, at least a 50-year low, certainly lower than any time since Nixon. And right at the end of 2008, you know, and Obama, you know, he was good looking, and he was good at speeches.
Well, and let's remember that McCain chose Palin and totally shot himself in the foot.
I actually think that was an okay decision. I will defend Palin. I think that those two, like, they kind of balance themselves.
But still that's a long discussion.
Yeah, sorry.
What I'm saying is that he wasn't up against a whole lot. He was up against the Republicans when no one wanted to vote for a Republican because of the Iraq War, and that was a, you know, it was almost a gimme, a freebie, you know, and then they got it in their heads that after he was reelected, because they did not start playing the identity politic crap until he was reelected, and that's when Black Lives Matter came around, which Obama totally. It was his thing. It was very clearly his thing. You know, he gave that speech about Trayvon, like anyone should care. And so he was a relative no name. And what David Horowitz said was that, you know, Obama's background was in Marxist organizing and everything. That was really very
his
true.
His father.
Yeah. He was raised by Marxists, and then he was in Acorn. He did Acorn, which was the.
There's a book out there called Obama's Rage, which talks all about his father.
Oh, I should read it. So, but basically, he was this no name who happened to be electable, who was given the keys to the world by George Soros, essentially, and then from that point onward, they've been, it's like they've been grooming other people to be the next puppet. And so it's like they were hoping Hillary Clinton was going to be that, but she's, you know, not believable enough when she's not working for herself. You know, it's just like, no, you're just clearly corrupt for your own ends. And now they have Kamala Hairspray, who is like, the only reason she's a thing at all is because she had sex with Governor Willie Brown, which he came out and admitted was true, that they did have this affair when he was married. And that's how she got her like DA a job, presumably. So
wow.
Yeah, she's like can't win basically. I mean, the thing was, everybody said that the only reason she's a district attorney is because they were pretty sure that she had an affair with the former governor, Willie Brown, you know, a number of years ago when he was the governor. And people said, no, that's maybe not true. That's probably a rumor. But I'm sure the people who started that rumor like saw them together at political functions, you know?
Yeah.
And so they knew what they were talking about, and then the guy came forward and admitted, yeah, the affair did happen. So I mean, it's hard. It's so
they have no one. They have
no one. They have no
nothing.
one.
It's wow, and especially after State of the Union. I mean, I heard all these rumors that, you know, because Pelosi kept picking up her papers and stuff.
Let's remember the just to election forecasts as they relate to the State of the Union, because I have something to finish up. But remember that's the next topic. Okay. So what I'm saying is that, like, I don't think that whoever, like, you know, if Soros is like full on in bed with the Chinese Communist Party, which I would bet money on that. It just makes sense, you know? Those people are looking for their little puppet presidents. And I think that Obama and Kamala Hairspray are just they just don't understand things. Like, all that they know is their own opportunism and basically corruption. Like, these people are, you know, telling them, hey, little person, when you were in school, you didn't ever think that you were going to be anything more than potentially a judge, but now you could be the king of the world. And they're just taking that opportunity.
Yeah, well, it makes sense because Obama was probably like groomed since, you know, childhood, like as a puppet, and Clinton clearly many years of grooming, you know, like, and then both, like, they were never obviously planned. They didn't have another puppet of 20-30 years of grooming under their belt.
Well, no, Clinton wasn't as clearly groomed as Obama to me.
Well, because Obama came probably since literally from childhood, where Clinton got probably when she was first lady.
I think it was before that. I think it was probably from her early law days when she started doing immoral stuff. But Clinton's a fighter. Obama's not a real fighter. He doesn't have it in him. He never had to.
Yeah.
All of his guard dogs did all the fighting for him.
It's true. He's just like perfect example of privilege.
Yeah. Yeah, he never had to get his hands dirty. So yeah, but okay, so let's talk about 2020 and the State of the Union address. This includes you, Space Pan. I see you typing in the chat.
Does it say I'm typing in the chat? Oh no, yeah. I mean, honestly, I was a little bit underwhelmed by it. It just, the whole thing felt really milquetoast to me. It felt just really obvious that he was really trying to kind of play to the middle. And really, I kind of get the idea that he's trying to give a speech that, like, is hard for someone to attack, you know? But, I mean, and it might just be that I really like seeing Trump at his most outrageous. I like seeing Trump when he calls people out. I like it when he does, like, ridiculous things. And I get that that's probably not necessarily the ideal strategy for the State of the Union.
Yeah, well, and you also you follow politics.
He also, though, like, give him credit. He master trolled them. He trolled especially the communists and the white jacketed ladies and stuff. It was a masterful movement of chess in the way that he set them up to look so bad.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Like they're sitting there like not applauding stuff that obviously they should have. I mean,
I kind of want to hope that he has like more things he's planning on doing that the State of the Union is sort of padding for, that he's kind of setting a tone that's going to allow him to seem more reasonable as he does things that maybe are more like H.A. Goodman said that he thinks he's going to totally declare a state of emergency and then just build the wall, which that'd be awesome.
I don't know if he would. I don't know if he would do that unless he was elected for a second term.
Well, also there's a couple points. He talked about how there's more caravans coming, more people coming, and he made the specific point saying that they're going to come to one of the open border sections. And he said he's mobilizing 3,500 troops to the border in anticipation of this. If that's not reason enough to call for an emergency, I mean, it's basically like an invading foreign, body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think that you have to remember though, the dramatic majority of people, they just they don't
and also let's assume that he's moving 3,500 troops down to the border. You think that they're just going to sit around and do nothing while they're down there? They're going to be building a wall.
But
they're building a wall.
but that stuff is under the assumption that people are, checking in once a week to see what the update on the wall is. The people that he has to convince, like, it has never occurred to them, like they don't know that Obama has the criminal justice reform bill that he actually passed, or Trump. Like they don't know that Trump got done basically the, like, I don't want to say the black supremacist dream, but the far left black, one of the biggest talking points that they have been talking about since as long as I can remember, which was that they wanted a criminal justice reform so that incarcerated people that were incarcerated due to the war on drugs that were that largely did end up being black people in particular, they wanted those people to be free from prison. And Obama didn't do shit. He didn't do it. Trump did it. Trump did that, And so that's the state of the most of the people that Trump is actually still communicating with, because he knows that he has to win over a lot of people onto his side. And if he does it for just long enough, he can get those people on to his side. And so I think that he's probably weighing where he's at.
He got a 76% approval rating from those who watched the State of the Union. And then he just posted on his Instagram today that he's at a 50% approval rating overall.
Yeah, but I mean, that there's still so many people that are non-covered, and he knows that, because the people that get polled are never the right people, because that's how he won. And like there was people who were saying, who allegedly watched the State of the Union address, and so I love how I wrote the title wrong of this video. It says SOTUS, and it's supposed to be State of the Union. I gotta edit that. I
was just looking at it, and I was like, State of the
United
States?
No.
United States. State of the Union speech. State of the Union speech.
Oh, that would have worked.
Bam. We got you. We got it.
So, okay. There are people who, and now granted, these are like gay guys in California who are like pretty much the most completely politically uninformed people that can exist. Like
I know.
But some of them allegedly think, they claim to have watched the whole speech and say Nancy Pelosi was that speech. And it's like, okay, I think they're probably lying. I think, because like I don't see how even
did they watch the part where he said that they're gonna get rid of HIV in 10 years.
I didn't even remember that part.
You didn't hear that part? He specifically has a whole section of the speech where he's talking about the HIV/AIDS epidemic and how they're putting effort into committing to finding a cure for the disease in the next 10 years.
Huh. That's interesting.
And then right after that,
Actually,
he
I
talks
might
about
have- you know,
childhood cancer.
I might have heard that, and it just kind of rolled off my back because it just seems like something that a politician would say, you know.
It's like nice clickbait.
But
Like
he did give at least a couple minutes of his speech to acknowledge that it's something that's important, right?
Uh-huh.
Like where every other gay
Nancy
guy always tries
Pelosi-
to act like
Yeah, because that's their only issue that they care about.
it's the only issue they care about, and they always try and act like he doesn't care about it. And so he's like, "Look, I'm standing up here saying I care about it," you know, like
Yeah, no, they have it in their head that he's worse than Reagan.
The funny thing about it is, I was listening to Crowder interviewing Gavin McInnes, and one of the things they brought up that like it's so obvious but so funny. The Southern Poverty Law Center, basically by their current standards of saying like people are homophobic, Donald Trump is literally the only president that would not be considered like hateful or homophobic, like on those grounds.
Right.
Democrat or Republican, literally the only one. So it's and like the entire narrative about gays, him being anti-gay, it's based on Pence saying that people should be allowed to have conversion therapy if they want it. Like not even that it should be compulsory, right? Just that it should be on the table. And like I think that like yeah, people want to like fry their brain to cure the gay, zap the gay away. Like go ahead, like try it. Like that's your right. Like if you know, if you're not happy, and and the irony is these people are all totally cool with transitioning, right? Which is there's so much
be markedly
that can go
more,
wrong. Right.
risky.
So they're totally fine with that and that sort of level of personal choice, but then they don't extend that same level of personal choice to gay men, and I feel like it really parallels how there's social identity politics, how it really is just like a form of this really, really like paternalistic attitude, right?
Well, their
Where they're
social identity politics is a representation of the way that they even do their whole intersectional feminism. Everything gets a score, and certain things are scored higher or lower than other things.
Yeah,
and so gay men just don't score that high. I guess.
Well, oh wait, no, gay men are hated. They hate us.
They hate us because
they're okay. And I don't know why I was like not okay. So they're feminists. Feminists don't have no love for the gay men. It was always an act. It was mostly just like some feminists were also lesbians, and lesbians were like, okay, so I do have this like friend that's a gay guy who lives next door to me, and he's actually literally starving in his house, and so I've been helping him out. Can we like do something? That's like all you know. Like during the AIDS crisis, that's like where the myth that lesbians or where that feminists cared about gay men is because of those lesbians, but most of them broke off from the feminist movement. But so feminists hate gay men. It's just a thing. And then communists hate gay men. And let us not forget who hates gay men more than anybody.
Gay men.
No, I think you can do me one better.
It's the lesbians.
Come on, use your head.
The Christians.
No, the trans. No.
Oh, well, the communists.
Well, no, we already said that.
Oh, we already said communists. Oh,
hey, chat.
Can we listen twice, please? Because I hate them.
Okay,
Chat.
who hates gay men?
How about you say it and then you super chat it to me. No, okay, it's too okay, oh there we go. Warlord Basil says it's the Muslims. And yes. Yeah, the Unholy Alliance coming back into the to the fray to influence their favorite little communists that they like to work with on occasion when it comes to stamping out anybody in the West that has any sort of good ideas and strength. They team up to make sure that person is silenced. Kind of like I'm not going to make any more Infinity War references. That's like a not okay thing. I'm banned from always doing that.
Gotta love those tyrannical despots.
Yeah. So yeah, because you know they get the money from the Islamic governments, like that's a known thing. And so and one of the things is that in certain sects of Islam, and granted there's many sects and they blow each other up all the time. That's the odd thing about the nature of the religion. It all exists under the utopian. Well, this doesn't even make sense because I think that the world, the origin of the religion, I think the religion was founded in like 800 AD, so it's actually not been around for that long. But it came either 800 or 1200 AD. Either way, before 1492. And so they didn't know that the world was round when this you know, they didn't know that the world was finite even. I think that they just thought that you could just discover people as long as you kept exploring or something, you know. And so the Islamic religion is based upon converting as many people as you can into Islam and then taxing all of the non-believers. So that the Islamic people are a privileged class that lives off of the wealth of other people. And they have a lot of nationalistic and even, I think, somewhat expansionist socialist principles. And if you even look at Saudi Arabia gives away like $200 billion a year in social welfare. And that is a fact that you can like search for very easily. It's not hard to figure that out. And so I somehow in their little religion, they decided that it's okay in some sects to be it's not being gay is not okay. And one of the things is that Muhammad was not actually the most radical. Muhammad was not all that radical, and one of his wives was and I guess it was his favorite wife was actually like sort of a strong woman, but one of Muhammad's sons ended up being a lot more radical than him. And so either the Shiites or the Sufis or some crap, I don't remember their names, or Sunni.
There's Sunni and Shia, I think, are the two big ones.
Yeah, Sufi's a different thing, I think.
It is. They're still Muslim, but they're different.
No, because the Enneagram is the Sufi thing, and yeah. So one of them is okay. One of them just, you know, all gay men should die, and then the other is like, no, they should be converted into transgender people and live as women. So that's why it would make more sense that the intersectional leniency on trans people, but gay men have been completely left out. Like when is the last time you can ever remember an LGBT blog that's just like trying to make gay men feel good about themselves, like ever? You like I can remember instances of them calling like a celebrity homophobic just cause that's going to get clicks, but like there's never been any affirming article.
No, nothing that actually celebrates gay culture.
Yeah, it's always like you're misogynist, you're racist,
yeah, or you have daddy issues.
Yeah, you're fat phobic. You're
hypersexual.
Yeah, and yeah, just that kind of a crap, or like
hookup culture is blah whatever.
You should be non-binary because reasons.
I will say there was some kind of wholesome celebration of more or less like regular gay people around the time when gay marriage became like the law. I mean, through the court, which is not ideal, but I mean that actually made sense because they tied up it with so many other rights that I kind of like don't care. That shouldn't be a state's right. But anyway, there's a lot of articles like, like this means like regular normal people can get married, right? So it did have that really wholesome edge to it.
That was okay. But the intersectional attack on gay men happened in 2014 is when it first kicked off, and it happened right at the beginning of the year, as if they were planning on it. And 2014 was the same year that Proposition 8 was overturned, and it was I think 2015 when it became fully first Proposition 8 was overturned, and so gay marriage was legal in California. And then soon, about a year after, they decided that gay marriage should be legal throughout the United States, but they had to, have that go through the Supreme Court. I would guess that this was a plan. Like they were like, okay, let's start attacking gay men, and let's also give them what they wanted, so that the gay advocacy organizations that men are strong with, that they all get married and they drop their guard, because they've been whining about how they want to get married for so long. If they get what they want, they'll gay men being pragmatic and utilitarian, and not unlike unlike feminists who are completely just whiny for eternally, they'll be like, cool, I'm gonna go get married for a second.
Oh, I love going on Grindr, being like, yeah, my husband knows I'm here, and like, yay, gay men who get married. And what did that change? Anyways,
I have said it once and I will say it 5 million times. Gay men single-handedly destroyed the sanctity of marriage within like 2 years straight. You know that? Okay, I hate saying this, but no, I don't hate saying this at all. You want to know why? Because I hate everybody in San Francisco, period. And I
blanket statement. Blanket statement.
No, blanket statement. But no, do you ever know that couple that like the one guy is the guy who owns that bar Truck? And you do know these people, because you knew my old squatter in my so the one guy is a hairstylist, and the other guy owns that bar Truck, and his hairstylist husband is like really, really cute. You would see him like once a week at a club with his shirt off, wearing his wedding ring, making out with a dude. Like it was, they made no effort to hide what was going on at all.
Yeah. It's it's a business deal. Anyways, the whole idea that they created what you said, is they created the advocacy groups, like all of that energy and money, and especially like building up the Human Rights Council or something that became really big at that time, with the whole like equality thing.
Yeah, and the HRC, God, that shit's garbage.
Right? Which was basically, HRC, Clinton. That was like basically one of Clinton's shill organizations. And then
it makes sense. Yeah. It's not like I knew anything about the history of it, so I always thought that was just me imagining things.
And then as soon as the marriage thing was done, that whole organization became all about trans stuff.
No, totally. I have a story about the HRC. I actually went to so my friend was with like a company that had like an event through them, and he had like free tickets. So I was like, hey, do you want to like go to this like gala thing? And I'm like, what? This is weird. This is like weird, like proper adult hanging out. So we go to this like gala, like wearing a suit and shit, right? And like so they gave us dinner. They had like a silent auction or whatever. There was like an ice sculpture. It was really cool. And then like we had to sit and like watch this big presentation. And like the entire fucking thing was about trannies. And it was about like the trans bathroom thing. And it's like,
oh, by the way, Gaytriarchy does not support that language. Don't cancel my non-associated. No. It's fine. I'm just disconnecting myself from that, because I don't want my like, subscribe star to be deleted or something.
Yeah, disavow. That's right. I should just come with a disavow like label on me. Like, it's just I'm always like a degree away from it. But no, like, okay. Here's the thing, though. Actually, this was something Melissa Carley had pointed out, which I don't know where she is. She's like she's like Carmen Sandiego now. Where in the world is Melissa Carley? But that's not the point.
I think she largely works a lot. She's financing her transition.
Oh, okay. So she's just a little busy. Well, she closed her Discord server, and I thought it was personal at first. I was like, oh, did she disavow me, like for real? And then everyone's like, no, like the server is gone. Like you're not that important. Like, shut up. Like, okay, good. Like, okay, good. But where is she? But anyway.
Well, I mean, and actually, for all we know, she got like a new job or something. So
Right. Well, I know she was working on something too. So, well, yeah. I just best wishes to her. It'd be nice to hear from her. But no. So what she pointed out is that the whole trans bathroom thing, like, it actually makes a lot of sense to just like allow trannies in bathrooms, because when you have a rule that says that people who are trans have to use like the one that's their assigned gender at birth, what's going to end up happening is for every one tranny that you prevent, sorry, transsexual person that you prevent from going into the, whatever bathroom, you're also going to catch like a whole bunch of women, like actual biological women who don't pass. And I was like, holy shit, like of course this is gonna happen, like that's gonna be way more common. So it's one of like the funniest unintended consequences of that. It's like so many just homely women are just like, go to the men's bathroom, and she's like, dude, like,
yeah, I know, and that's gonna have the most dire consequences at like gay lesbian bars.
Oh God.
I mean, we should just have unisex bathrooms. It's just have unisex bathrooms. Seriously, I'm 1,000% prone to just unisex bathrooms. Way easier.
I always thought they should, have bathrooms,
everything.
they should have bathrooms with stalls and bathrooms with urinals, and just you choose.
There we go. Yeah, just choose that way.
Lordy, you live in San Francisco. Tell me what it's like in Seattle. It's like most of them are unisex. Like I go into like random places. Like I don't even want to say what. Like right now I'm thinking the clinic. I can't even think of like what is the example of just okay. Maybe I'm thinking of like the health food store. I guess that's not super random. A lot of LGBT people go to the health food store like to go get the fancy cheeses.
Yeah,
but like no, it says like all gender bathrooms or sometimes it will say like male, female. Like it will have the silhouette, but it will say choose. You are free to use whatever bathroom you feel corresponds best to your own identity. Like it says some crap like that. Is it like that in San Francisco at this point?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much any business that had anybody probably at any point complain to that business ended up just putting at least one all gender restroom. So any kind of establishment that could be under political scrutiny for any reason has basically done it. The only place, but not like in nightclubs. Still, nightclubs obviously still separate unless they're gay or queer or whatever. And bars are still separate and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you go to like public buildings, a lot of the public buildings have all gender spaces. Any kind of community buildings usually have all gender restrooms. It's pretty common.
I like living in Asia because I feel like it's never ever gonna be an issue, because first of all, like nobody cares about the female to male, like that 0%. Men are just like whatever. No 0% they don't care. That's never the issue. It's only male to female that anybody cares about or imagines regarding this. Same thing with gay marriage. Nobody cared about lesbians getting married. It was only like the gay male aspect of it that made people like not like it. But like here, since everyone's Asian, so like if they want to transition, they transition really well. Like all the prettiest girls are like Asian boys. Like it's just like a fact. Like, so I feel like it's like never gonna be an issue here.
Yeah, there was a book that I read called Middlesex. It won like the Pulitzer Prize for literature, I think, and so it's a very famous book last decade. It was good. Yeah, I liked it. And it was about a hermaphrodite that so it was sold as if it was this identity politics book about a hermaphrodite, but really the author put a lot more about his Greek American heritage and the type of cultural things that were within Greek culture. And but one of the parts that was about the hermaphroditic aspects of it was this notion that he always dated, because so he had I think this took place when he was identifying as a male, because he went back and forth, and he was dating an Asian woman, and he usually dated Asian women, and she said to him, "Are you dating me because you're gay? Because I feel like I always date guys that end up being closeted." And he's like, "Why would you say that?" And she's like, "Well, it's because I'm Asian, and Asian females' bodies are more like males. It's a thing." So that's what she said in the book.
And as a generality, it's sort of true. There's just less like sexual dimorphism.
Yeah, there's
Well, I mean,
androgyny
everyone
both
thinks
ways. I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of just whatever way. I guess it's whatever you want to see, you know, because
I mean, it's
Asian
exaggerated.
males are very feminine, can be very feminine, and Asian females can also look very boyish.
They don't tend to have super huge tits.
No, definitely not.
But at the same time, like living in Asia, I still see like on a daily basis extremely tall Asians and Asians with extremely big titties. So like even though there's a general trend of like less kind of dimorphism and less contrast, you still see the extremes. You know, like they're still definitely out there. So
what I also think is funny about actually going to Asia, okay, now granted, if you spend enough time on like West Coast cities where there's lots and lots of Asian people, you learn to know the difference between like Japanese people and Chinese people. One of those main differences on a cultural level is that Japanese people, like you go to Japantown in San Francisco and it's like clean and quiet and nice. You go to Chinatown, it is dirty and loud. They are yelling at each other. And like you go by one of those like bars where they do the weird gambling-ish games, and it's just like they're like yelling and like hitting the cup down on the ground. And so that is a cultural...
I love that game with the dice cups. It's so fun.
Yeah. No, they get really into that. And Chinese people are very into gambling, and smoking is a thing. But Chinese people are also very, very loud. And in Asia, there's an actual stereotype of that. Like that's an actual thing. Like I went to a restaurant in Japan, and one of the funny things about it was a Chinese restaurant in Tokyo that was kind of supposed to be like really stereotypical and kitschy in the same type of way that you would go to a Mexican restaurant that would have like people playing in a mariachi band or whatever. And they were all really, really loud. As soon as they would they would yell the orders to each other in a way because Japanese people think of Chinese people as very, very loud. So one of the things I found funny in Japan was that overall, yeah, I would say Japanese people are quieter than Americans and, dress more modestly and stuff. But like, you can find that people who are loud and fucking dumb. Like you go to like Shibuya and you can find Japanese girls like trying to dress up as surfer chicks with bleach blonde hair that are completely moronic, like yelling at each other drunk at night. And it's just like this weird thing that you would never really see.
Or Ganguro girls.
I don't know those.
Oh my god, it's the coolest thing ever. I think it's great. A lot of people like really hate it, but it's a fashion trend in Japan where what the girls do is they bleach their hair like as bright and crazy as they can, and then they put on like a really crazy big like fake tan, and then they wear like big bright colors everywhere. And the idea is it's like an inversion of the traditional standard of beauty, which is of course, jet black hair and very, very fair like white skin, right? So they're kind of like deliberately switching it up. And of course, there's the song Ganguro Girl, which is a Eurobeat song, and all Eurobeat songs are timeless classics. So, Ganguro is.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah, I love how Japan is just like weird. Actually, I have a friend who's like in Japan right now, and he sent me a picture of like a sewage drain pipe that has like a little cartoon like etched onto it of like the little like swordman traveler guy and the monkey and like a dog, I think, and it's like a traditional tale or whatever. And it just like I love how like in Asia they just like let things be cute. Like in the West, like the white West, everything has to be so serious. But like here, like when you go to the subway train, like in Hong Kong, there's like anime styled and all the advertising, right? And like you'd never see that shit like in New York. They wouldn't have like warning signs that have like anime characters in it. Like I don't know. It's
more of a sense of humor.
Yeah, and it's Year of the Pig, so there's like little cute chibi pigs everywhere. I love it. Happy Year of the Pig, everyone, by the way, because Chinese New Year, it's like a fucking 2-week holiday. So we're on day like 18 of the fucking New Year. So it's still Happy New Year, Happy New Year.
They have a Chinese New Year in Overwatch. So they have a whole event in it. Like every time you log on for I don't know how many usually the some of the events will last for probably like, I think usually the events go on for a month on Overwatch. So yeah, there's new skins. I think that the only there's a really good one for the robot tank that I like to play, and she's dressed up like a dragon. I like.
Oh, that's Diva, right?
No, it's Orisa. It's one of the other. So Orisa is a full blown tank, and Diva is a little Korean girl that flies around in a mecha.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've never played it because it's an FPS. Ew.
I know, that's what I said. Except for it is the faggotiest. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that on okay. I'm not supposed to.
Disavow.
No, it is the gayest ass FPS that you will ever play ever. It's like so, like I saw it and I was like, okay, first of all, it's an FPS. I don't like that. And then also I don't like things that are styled with slightly cartoony drawings. You know, like I just don't like that type of animation. But then I was like, wait. But the reason I didn't like FPSs is that all of the other FPSs I played made way too big of an effort to try to be realistic. And this breaks the realism with cartooniness. And that was what made it, like, that was probably the main thing that made it tolerable, aside from the fact that it's also, like, just a really, really good game. So.
Well, I can't deny, like, I was like I've definitely played like GoldenEye and really enjoyed it. So like I have the capacity to enjoy them. I just don't know why. But I couldn't even finish fucking like Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus. Literally like the most weeb ass like FPS they possibly could have concocted.
Final Fantasy VII?
It was Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus. It was the one where you play as Vincent. Yeah, it was a spin-off where you play as Vincent and is
that the black guy with the hand that you shoot?
No, that's Barrett. Vincent was the vampire character who was optional.
Oh, I didn't ever play him. I know that there was a big fandom that ended up coming from the Final Fantasy VII and like different spin-offs, but I didn't know about it.
Well, since you mentioned Barrett, one interesting little factoid in Final Fantasy VII, I'm sure anyone who plays it knows this, but they have like a secret like affection rating. I think it used to be triggered by like how many times you would heal and like revive other party members, but I think they cut that out. But like there's certain choices you make in like dialogue, and like there's a point in the game where you go on a date with one of the other characters. And typically it's either one of the female ones, Yuffie, Eris, or Tifa. But if you do it right and you have if you make the correct decisions, then you can end up on the date with Barrett, which is it's funny.
So I think we should change away from the video game discussion because that is not what people tune in for. And to steer it back to that, somebody in the chat, huge happy grin asked, why aren't gays allowed to use gay gendered speech? We are actually. You can according to the Prince of All Queens, you can go out to wherever you want if you are gay and say whatever you want. And you can even, and according to me, actually, you can even use the T word as much as you want. And it is all fair in the community if you are, especially considering at the moment you're more discriminated against as a gay man than you are as a transgender person, because you can't even mention it if you're a gay guy. That's what I would sort of say. Problem is, I get channel strikes on YouTube. So,
well, like our politics are wrong, and it's only about that. If your politics are wrong, then they'll get you for whatever they want, and that's just how the game works. Like in reality.
But there was this weird thing that happened around 2013 or so, when right around the Black Lives Matter, like right around the big change of 2012, like the Trayvon Martin was what changed everything. But then there was all of this other like new PC crap. I think it has had to have been a lot of sort of grassroots funding to like nonprofit organizations that had a lot of connections with like activists, and things just sort of traveled down the line. And all of the trans people in San Francisco that I knew around that time all of a sudden were offended by the word quote unquote, I am quoting, this is not a word I am using, I am quoting, tranny. They but the thing is, and this is the really strange thing, almost every trans person said that. Because it's like it would take so long to say transsexual, transgender. First of all, you'd have to pick between transsexual, transgender. And then if you say trans person, that's also long. So people would just say tranny. And then all of a sudden they decided that it was a slur that they should be offended by. But they all would call gay guys, quote unquote, faggots. Like they were totally fine with that. And it was totally okay for trans people to call gay guys, quote unquote, faggots, but not gay guys to call trans people, quote unquote, trannies. And they had the whole intersectional reasoning for why that was. It was completely absurd, but it was that was one of the sudden changes that I was like, wait, okay, whatever game you're playing, it's rigged. Like that was one of the first things that I noticed. So yeah, there's no explaining these rules because they don't make sense.
Yeah, no. I mean, my rule is really simple. It's anyone can say anything, and if you get offended by like a simple word, then that's Pavlovian. Like you're literally Pavlov's dog. So if by that standard, like the vast majority of humans are just like dogs, then I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sorry, not sorry, quite literally. I just don't get it. Like if someone gets offended literally just by just hearing a word, they hear a word that it's a trigger and then they're angry. I have absolutely no sympathy for it. I just immediately want to double down, and that's why I get banned from Facebook all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. I think for me with like the N-word, which is something that like like you obviously you're just not supposed to even say it like at all ever on the internet. Like you get in trouble for it. It's just not a good idea. Even in quoting, even in jest, even in there's just no circumstance. I think that what it is that it was the only word that in far leftist areas, like I grew up in, in Seattle in the 1980s and 1990s, everybody was told that that word was completely off limits and that you should never say it. And then it was only until the gangster rap era when Black people really started taking it back in large quantities, at least in terms of like middle school to teenage aged kids. And that was a very, very edgy thing for them to even do as Black people, because it was so ingrained in us that saying that was wrong. And so it was taught that as eventually it was like, okay, well, Black people are allowed to say it. But at first it wasn't. Like at first it was like Black people shouldn't say that, but then the kids did. And then it was sort of taught that like, okay, well, they can do that because they are reclaiming it. I guess we can't stop them, but white people can never, never, never do it. And then it became this thing where it was like, okay, your Black friends, maybe some of them won't say it. Maybe some of them would prefer it if other Black people didn't say it. But there's this unspoken rule that, or it would be actually spoken, that white people are never supposed to say this. And so it was like you were making your Black friends uncomfortable if you were willing to violate that rule. It wasn't simply so much like if you were to say, I'm going to say this word in just a second, is that fine with you? They'd be like, well, yeah. And then it's not like, oh, this word hurts me. It's more like, but if you said it without my permission, that would feel like you were trying to say that you didn't care about how that might make me feel, because it shows that you are violating the basic politeness standards that you have been sort of trained with. And I definitely see why there's like an argument to be made for like, hey, politeness standards are always arbitrary and silly, and so like people should be able to violate them at all times. Sure, ultimately, yeah. But at the same time, you have to like make sure that your friend is ready for that, and that they're not going to think that you're just like don't give a shit about their feelings. That's sort of like the way I see it. By the way, Lordy, you're muted if you didn't notice. Oh, he's back. Oh,
I went to the bathroom.
Okay, that's cool. You know what? I want to do the same thing. So you guys have at it for a second. Wait, actually, I'll wait for a second. I will mute. I will put my head speakers on. So okay, talk. I'll hear you.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is just that I really hate the whole concept of like the swear word, because it really just does reduce it down to instances of the word, you know? And when somebody has a standard that says like, oh, well, we can say this word because it's our group and like we're saying about ourselves, like the whole implication behind that being acceptable and inoffensive is that you generally take it as an assumption that someone of the same group isn't going to have some prejudice against that group. So the whole concept of there being context, which has something to do with the meaning, you know, is implicit in that very standard. Yet, if somebody outside of the group uses a term of a group that they're not a part of, all of that just goes out of the window, and it's just no, you just can't say it, period. And it literally is just like a low resolution dumbing down of it. And I get that, like, when you're dealing with people who like maybe you're not familiar with, you have no idea what their intellectual or like capacity is, right? So like it makes sense to have a dumbed down standard, since you just can't trust that people are going to be able to, I don't know, literally interpret words. Even though the fact that you're conversing with someone gives you enough of a precedent to establish that they're capable of understanding the distinction between words and meaning. And my whole thing, it was actually my philosophy thesis, was on this idea that the person stating words, they're the arbiter of their meaning. Like if I say a word and I literally mean something else, that instance of me using that word literally meant exactly what I meant it to mean, even if I used the wrong word. And the grounds for criticism are that I was not being clear or using words in a way that was accessible. But if down to the nitty gritty, that instance of me saying like the word apple literally meant orange in that instance. So basically, my whole paper was why I get to say the N word even though I'm white.
No, that makes absolute sense. And like my nephew lives in Germany and was raised in Germany. He speaks with a German accent, but he speaks English. And you know, he's like came over and he was like 12 or 11, and at one point I think we were watching like a movie or a commercial or something, you know, and there was a black guy in it, and he was like, oh, that's funny, with the dark man, he like referred to him as the dark man, and I was like, oh my god, it's funny that he just has no idea, you know, like he has no idea that like there would be, you know, some black Twitter would have quite a lot to say about that, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's like these arbitrary, like sometimes people just literally don't know what's the most appropriate word. And I think that with the N-word, I think it probably started out with just people who were being really, really clueless. Like they just didn't understand, like nobody who was going through the big push to outlaw that word had ever thought about things on that philosophical level. And I think that, you know, that philosophical thought is largely a great privilege, in the way that like you do have to really experience a lot and really spend a lot of times thinking about it and having really, really good teachers to explain concepts to you in order for you to like let go of your instincts and to start being like, wait, maybe the better thing to do is the thing that didn't feel right, you know? And I think that were people being like, you know, it makes us feel so bad when white people call us the N-word. Could we just try to get them to stop? And like somehow that became the thing, you know, that somehow that was the hill they were willing to die on, and people just gave them that, you know, so that there wasn't going to be a bloodbath or something, you know. And
I was just gonna say, if like I were legitimately racist, like, and I wanted black people to suffer, and like I just like wanted the worst for them, what I would do is I would coach them into having a 2-syllable trigger that causes them to melt down.
That's good,
right? Like, like it's so ridiculous to me. It's just like if any black friend I have, if they're like really offended by it, I would kind of try as much as I can to coach them out of like thinking that. It's like, why are you giving them that power? Like you get to interpret words. You have a thinking mind. Like you don't have to react that way. Like you can control that, and it's just so many things go back to just giving people agency, prescribing that agency, and like sometimes people need to just be reminded that they do in fact have it.
Yeah. No, it's true. And like I would say and you were trying to say something, Lordy, so I will call on you next. But I found, I'm not supposed to talk about Overwatch too much. I already changed the subject away. But one of the things I learned so I used to get bent out of shape about, homophobic crap because I grew up in my middle school was 80% black. My high school was in the black neighborhood. So I experienced a lot of homophobia, and then it was not okay to be homophobic at my high school. And so I got very pampered and was kind of some people referred to me as a militant later in life just because I wouldn't take any crap. But the thing is that even that act of me not taking any crap was giving it too much energy, like it's like, wait, I don't need to forbid them from doing it because then they're just gonna like think I'm an asshole and say it when I'm not around. What if I just show them that it's not going to get them anywhere? And I learned that I had to do that in Overwatch games with random teammates because when you get paired randomly up with these people, you just don't know who it's going to be. And a lot of them, are clearly come from rough neighborhoods and they hear you sounding like a gay guy. And I mean, there's a lot of gay guys that play Overwatch, so they're mostly cool with gay guys. It's not like they get on there and start like talking shit to you because that's part of the game. You end up with random people. But if you each thing plays in numbers of rounds, and if you lose the first round, they're going to start trying to blame someone. And if I'm playing one of the harder roles, they're going to be like, well, will you switch off Sombra? Seems like you're obviously not doing anything. And it's like, hey, chill out. Maybe if I had a tank, I'd be doing better, and so saying, and then they're like, oh, shut up. And they start, calling me the F word. And I realized instead of getting bent out of shape, I had no time to get bent out of shape. I needed to get it together. And one of the things that I realized, I had a canned response that I had been thinking of for years because it's something that I had kind of always wanted to say over the course of my life, which is that like, or at least ever since I started talking to right-wing people on YouTube, which was that because right-wing people would be like, how did you deal with going to like a ghetto school? Because I tell them that I, sounded about as gay as I do now when I was like 13. And they were like, whoa, that must have been rough. And I was like, yeah, well, I mean, I was pretty funny and whatever. I guess that some of the kids like me, but really everything was cool in high school because in high school, I befriended all of the popular girls. And if you are the gay guy that is friends with all the popular girls, no one's going to mess with you. And so I realized, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense because they could ruin your life. And so I realized that if they start trying to talk shit to me over being gay, I could be like, oh, shut. Like one guy literally said, oh, you sound like you're gay. You sound like someone I would beat up in high school. And be like, no, you wouldn't do anything to me in high school. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, I would. And I'd be like, no, you wouldn't do anything to me because I was friends with all of the popular girls in high school. I was a popular gay guy. And if you mess with me, I would ruin your life. And then he was like, no, I'd probably be dating her. And I was like, no, you wouldn't have, because if you mess with me, she wouldn't talk to you. And then he shut his mouth and then we won. And that was like the pragmatic way of dealing with the situation, just like me not letting it get to me, like instead of pretending to be offended because that's what he wanted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no point in getting offended. Just to engage in dialogue. You have two options. You either have confrontation, argument, whatever, or you have dialogue. If you get offended, you go towards confrontation. There's no dialogue there, and it's just, whatever. It's like nobody's listening to the other person. Doesn't matter what you say.
But if you have dialogue, then you have a shared pool of meaning. And in order to engage in dialogue, you must both engage in shared meaning. You found something you could relate to him with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah, the shared meaning of because he started and I took him on his terms. You know, he was trying to talk about high school. He's like thinking like, oh, in high school, I wouldn't let this gay guy talk to me like this. And I was like, are you sure? And then he was like, wait, there was one popular gay guy, actually, now that I think about it. It's like, yeah, maybe not all of them, but there was that one.
I think this actually kind of solves a bit of the mystery of why so many gay men are drawn toward feminism. I think it might be this kind of residual dependency on female approval, because it not only is it just like, oh, like they're into female stuff, so like all their friends are girls, but it's also like there's an aspect of protection to it too.
Oh yeah, that was what my video for Bane's channel was built upon.
Yeah. Every gay man realizes that when they have female protection, like that it's a benefit. In especially when there's like dudes around that want to fuck them.
Yeah. Unless
like I was watching,
unless the women are no longer holding up that end of the bargain, which is what we saw.
So I was walking down the street in New York wearing, I don't know, a cape or something like that, and you know, feeling myself feeling great, and I walked past a group of mostly guys who looked very tough. These were like urban looking tough whatever guys, not people I would normally even look at or even give, you know, just because like I don't want any.
What neighborhood?
I was actually walking through like far to the west side, kind of Chelsea, but far to the west side.
More
and
like,
it wasn't
like Chelsea Piers?
Like, yeah, it wasn't a scary neighborhood, but it was just like, you know, it was night, there was nobody else around. It was my neighborhood. I was walking home, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and but I walked past this group of guys and they're all start like kind of laughing and kind of like whatever, making fun or something of what I'm wearing and how I'm walking. And then there's one badass bitch among them who makes a point of telling me how good she thinks I look, and then walks over just to like give me a kiss on the cheek and tell me how good she thinks I look and whatever. And then all the other dudes, right, around her just
was she with them?
She was with them.
Oh, okay.
And they all just shut up and stopped laughing, and they all just looked at her and they're like, oh shit. Like,
yeah, she's probably the alpha female. She was probably the alpha female.
Yeah, she was clearly the one in charge, and she was like teaching her guys like that's no way to talk to someone, you know.
Well, especially not in the Chelsea Piers.
Yeah.
They probably walk away and she's like, "Fool, what the hell are you doing? This is how we get the cops following after us. Fuck is wrong with you?"
At least she knew what was up.
Yeah, the varying degrees of homophobia, I guess, anti-gay sentiments in New York and San Francisco between neighborhoods is such an interesting thing. Like, you can't properly explain it to people who haven't lived in these places, because there's massive wealth disparities in New York and San Francisco, depending upon, you know, you go 20 minutes, 30 minutes one direction, and like, yeah, you will get gay bashed, actually. Like, if you are dressed wrong and you're by yourself, like, they will beat you up just for fun. You just know not to do that. You know, like, you know to never go over there, and you don't. Like, you just never go there at all, ever. Like, you can live there for 15 years, never go. Yeah. And I've heard these, you know, funny stories. Like, one of the old drag queens that I knew, who was the rapper, I'm not going to say the name out loud because I, you know, like this person, on good terms with them. But they had this story from being in Polk Street when I think that they came across some like hooker or something, and they were out of drag, like they weren't in drag or anything, and the hooker was like, pretty boy, you need to run yourself away. You should not be down there, down here right now. It was probably around 2:30 or so, you know, and sure enough, they actually came after my friend and tried to mug them. And another instance, my friend in New York, who is a girl who went to playwriting, my playwriting department with me, who I want to have on Gaytriarchy. Like she'd be a really good guest. She came from a really dangerous neighborhood in Brooklyn, and I tried to ask her about, like, are there gay guys from where she's from? Because there was lesbians. Like, I had met them. She was friends with the lesbians from her neighborhood, and they came to visit the school, and then so I became friends with them. And I was like, are there gay guys? And she's like, oh, no. And I'm like, well, what if I went to your neighborhood? And she was like, let me explain it to you like this. If you went to my neighborhood and you were told the guys on the corner that you were gay, they would tell you that we're going to give you a 5-minute head start, and then we're going to chase you. So you better get out of here. And they'd hope that you just run away so that they don't even have to chase after you, if that makes sense. And I was like, maybe? I'm like, I don't know if I entirely contemplate like what exactly you're saying. And it took me years to think about what I think that she actually meant. And what I think that she actually meant is that most of the people in her neighborhood probably didn't like want to beat up gay guys, but they all knew it wasn't safe for gay guys to be there.
Yeah.
So they would want to give them the message, like, get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually want to chase after you, but we want to make sure you go.
Right. That makes total sense.
Yeah. So I've gotten some questions about 80s and 90s retro. So, okay, just for the record, we're supposed to be in a period of 90s retro right now. And actually we are, if you're in the hipster cities. But it hasn't really permeated. Yeah. Like a lot of people think that maybe we're sort of still in 80s retro, but we're
in 90s.
Yeah, and we technically have been all this decade. But I think the thing is that retro culture is mainly carried out through music, and music has just not been the cultural zeitgeist of this decade.
Yeah, but if you look at, I was just going to say, if you look at Cardi B and Bruno Mars, they did a whole 90s retro music video.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nami Amuro did a 70s, 80s, 90s triple single. So Japan's in on that shit too.
So wait, why are you asking how come I'm not in the Trump administration? What? Oh, when is Trump going to get PO? Okay, I haven't applied. I didn't see the Craigslist ad. I mean, I don't know if I would have applied. But hey, it's getting to the point of my career on YouTube where I have some projects in mind, and if a conservative think tank or network, like they have the Blaze just merged with whatever that CRTV was, I think it was like Blaze TV or some crap, I don't exactly know, if they were interested in sponsoring me and hoping that I was slightly, maybe a little bit more one way than I had always sold myself as, you know, like maybe they would hope that I was vicious towards the left in the way that I'm known for being, and they wanted to like sort of sponsor me a little bit, I would actually consider that. But I don't think I have a job in Washington. I just don't think, like, I think if you guys like saw what I look like and like saw my tattoos and knew anything about my past, like in actual, like, I mean, because you've heard that I've had drug problems and stuff, but if you actually like knew what I was like and how many people knew about how I was, it does not seem to be an option. that I have any future in politics.
It
I
seems
would
like
have to-
DRTV kind of imploded. Like it didn't seem to have a really smart model. It seems like it was really the opposite, right? It was all very closed off. You had to have the subscription to get the main content, and it seems like the places people really want to go are the places where you put everything out for free and then have a little hat.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, I know that there's some people who, the thing is with Patreon is that people were making tiers for their subscription base, and that's how people get a lot of money on Patreon. And I know a number of people that didn't even have, I mean, maybe they have bigger subscriber bases to me now, and maybe one of the reasons why is because they developed a loyal following on Patreon, but they would actually provide something to their subscribers on PayPal or Patreon. And so like if these people were donating $10 or maybe $20 a month more, they would get access to certain special content or something like that. Like the only thing I ever did as like a promise to my people was that like if they donated to me, they would get a little thank you at the end of my videos. But then half the people were like, I don't actually really want you to do that. Like, I don't need my name in at the end of your video. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because I don't really like putting that little end screen in there anyway. And I never did the sponsor content, but I'm no longer doing or exclusive content. I'm no longer doing non-scripted videos. Like, it's just not going to be something that I'm going to do because
Oh, you cut out there.
oh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh,
you mentioned
you're back
you
now.
weren't going to do non-scripted videos, then you were.
Can you hear me now?
2 seconds. Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, so yeah. So I'm thinking like, well, hey, I could do so I'm probably only going to be doing videos every 2 or 3 days, which is fine because I actually my subscriber count grows more when I'm not making videos every day. I think that's just sort of what it is when you have less than 25,000 subscribers. So one of the things that I'm thinking is that I could do my little stream of consciousness improv videos, and people who donate to me on Subscribestar or whatever of a certain threshold could get access to those videos, and might be a good way to get people to donate to me. It'd be cool.
I like the idea where people give a donation with like a specific question. So then you make a video that anyone can see, so you don't have to like close it off. But then, the donation, you kind of get that little perk of like whatever the topic they wanted you to talk about is,
Okay, but see, the thing is, there is such thing as stupid questions. And I don't want to make a whole video that everybody can see on something that isn't really either maybe I've already covered before or is not really that interesting to me. But I would like to fully, like, if someone's gonna, tip me $20 to have me make a whole video, I'm gonna give it my full go. Like I will do it, and I probably, knowing me, I probably will go on for over 5 minutes.
They just like set it like an unlisted, like this is just unlisted for no particular reason. Don't share the link.
Yeah, because I felt like I've sort of like especially the ones that were like the Gaytriarchy preview videos where I decided to like sort of talk about a subject. Like there's some of them were so bad, like all the crap that I've had going on in the past year, and then like also having to do this thing that I had to do every week that I wasn't always like always that excited about. Like I had some really bad videos for the Gaytriarchy previews, so like I already know what that's like. Is the point.
Yeah. Oh shit, there was something I forgot to mention when we were talking about the State of the Union.
Okay.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg wasn't there. Sorry if I sound really happy about this, but I have this pet theory that the Democrats are.
She's dead.
She is dead,
Yeah,
and
yes.
she's dead, and wait,
Yes.
that's only the beginning of it. What they're trying to do is find a body double for her. So they're lining up a bunch of like little old Jewish ladies, the ones that all like kind of look like her, right? And then they're like throwing her down the stairs to replicate her recent injury. And I just imagine them sitting there like, damn it, like every time we get this part of it right, like she doesn't survive the fall. She breaks too many ribs.
No, because they ran a story saying that she was in complete there was no trace of cancer from her lungs, and it's like that can't be true.
Oh my god, holy shit, I didn't even realize that. Oh my god, my theory makes more sense than I thought it did. Yeah, no, definitely look for differences. Because like there was the whole Hillary Clinton body double theory, and like
Right.
I get that was a little bit ridiculous, but it wasn't completely ridiculous. I would not put it past them. I would not put it past them at all. And like with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, they don't even need her to fucking talk, right? She just like sits around and sleeps. It's like just sleep, just take the medicine. You don't have to know where you are. You're a little old lady, you know. And they only need the facade to last however many years, right? Like
Yeah, until they can get. Yeah. Well, they're hoping that they can keep that somehow Trump's not going to win in 2020, and then they'll be able to let her die finally.
Yeah. Hold on.
How bad is it
I have
gonna
to
be
wash
if
my
they-
face. I'm just
okay.
mute myself.
But could you imagine how awkward it would be if like that literally was what they were trying to do, and then like they'd be like, oh yeah, she's dead, and she died kinda recently. And everyone's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, if there's no way that they would admit that she didn't die like right then or something. They'd be like
Like, okay, we have to really plan this out. Like it's kind of like the sequel to Weekend at Bernie's that America really
Oh my
deserves
God.
right now. Like,
oh my god, it is.
God, that would be such a good movie. I just now I want her to die so that enough time can pass for that movie to be made without seeming too insensitive. I'm just like, I'm serious. I am sorry. I'm like dial 11 hashtag go to sleep Ruth. I just don't even care. Like,
Yeah. No, I'm fairly confident they're not going to be able to keep up this charade of her being mysteriously missing, voting from afar, like much longer. Like they're going to have to do something. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting another Supreme Court justice hearing going.
yeah, I know, right? Well, everyone's saying it's gonna be what's that woman's name? The Catholic woman. Was it Amy something? What? Am I just making shit up?
I don't know. No idea. Other kind of things from the State of the Union, little rumors I heard is that because there were multiple times that Pelosi was like shuffling her papers behind Trump and like stood up and was being weird, and so there was some theory that because they're like, why is she looking at her papers, like, right? So some theory that she was given a false copy of the speech. And that's why she kept picking it up, because like suddenly he was like not going off the script that she had been given or something. So there was like more rumors that Trump trolled the Democrats pretty hard, like giving them fake speeches so that they think that he's going to say one thing and like then making them look like idiots.
I mean, I believe that. I just like what I'm really waiting for to happen is for Michelle Obama to admit she's a tranny and then to run for president as the first like tranny presidential nominee, to go like the full identity politics hand.
My God.
Okay, yeah. Wait. Okay. But hold on. So the thing you just said about the speech, because I've seen clueless F-word gay guys, it's like that's what I would have called them. Just clueless San Francisco people. They're saying like, oh yeah, why was she ruffling her papers? And they were saying, oh, because she had the speech in advance. They were saying that as if it was a good sign for her. Like they were like, oh my God, can you imagine the tea she was spilling? Can you imagine the shade she was throwing? No. She wasn't actually doing something clever. She was just sitting there looking dumb.
Like she had no idea what was going on.
She invented
She got totally blind.
But they didn't know the difference either way. And that's the thing that I have the problem. Like, this is why I'm considering. Oh, okay. So one of the things I wanted to talk to Chadwick about, because he recently quit Facebook, and I want to get your guys' opinion too. I'm really just entirely considering deleting my Facebook. Like, it's not. I don't think I'm going to learn anything more from these people. Like, I hate them. I don't think that there's like basically anybody that I'm going to salvage a friendship with. Like, there's a few people that I'm on borderline friend terms with that I would like to still be able to reach out to, that I would have to like write like random messages like, hey, I know they haven't spoken to you in like a really long time, but I'm gonna quit Facebook, and I know that maybe we aren't on the best terms in the universe, but I don't have a problem with you, and I assume you don't actually have an actual problem with me, but aside from that, I think that I want to delete my Facebook, because one of the things that I'm noticing is that with these gay guys, if you're still a leftist, if you still think that Nancy Pelosi shuffling her feathers was her reading Trump, like if you're that clueless, you don't know what way is up and what way is down. And these people have shown themselves time and time again to be literally just that. Like they are that dumb. And it's because they don't know anything about politics at all. Like these are these people that can't name even 2 of the 3 branches of government. Like they'd be like, they'd be like, is the police force one of them? No.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
it's just the worst that like people who know nothing I'm like, if you know nothing, just don't participate. Just go do something else. Like go do something you're good at.
No, because the thing is, the far leftist, so I wrote a script for a video today, like, why do far leftists like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? And the reason why is because the people who are her voting bloc are people who actively don't take an interest in politics, because most leftists like don't even try to take an interest. They would be kind of similar to like the Bush era evangelical vote or something. Like they specifically, like during the Bush era, you guys might not remember this as well as I do, but this was a thing. Everybody in the right, the Republican voting bloc, specifically would not look at the liberal media, and the evangelicals were pushing all of their followers, like all the people who went to the mega churches and crap. They pushed them into wanting. They were trying to say that their kids should be homeschooled because they don't want them to be in the liberal public education district, and they don't want them getting messages from the liberal media, and
yes, I have a friend who is Catholic and she homeschools her children. Continue.
Yeah, so that was an actual thing, and the thing is that the intersectionals are basically every bit as like puritanically religious as the evangelicals in that way, and they it's just this thing where they don't look at media, like the only media that they look at, and this is not even looking at media, this is just a pale substitute for it. What they do is they sit around, they go on their Facebook timeline, and they read the headlines of what shows up. And they figure if there's 3 headlines, one coming from CNN, one coming from the New York Times, one coming from the Washington Post, or maybe one from Vice or something, then that thing must be true. That thing must be true. But they don't even read it. And that's how these people are. And then they have the reinforcement of knowing at least 1 or 2 people that is their personal trusted friend that they think knows more about politics than they do, and that would be their local, like, either Democratic Party politician that they think must know a lot about politics because this is a Democratic Party representative, so clearly that person knows a lot of good information, or they know like a far leftist, like, actual activist, and they get verification from those people that, yes, what Vice magazine just said about Trump is definitely true. And so they never have to actually even attempt to look at the facts. And so, like, here I am, like, not only am I able to give countering evidence, I'm able to weigh what is true about their narrative. I'm like, okay, so you just said this thing. 15% of it is true. I'll tell you exactly what. All these other things are untrue. And you see the type of crap I post on Facebook. I'm always posting like essays and shit. And it always has like bullet points and shit. It's all like 1, 2, 3. You know, like, you see that. You see me doing that. And these people just have no idea what is true at all. Like, they don't know if part 1 is true.
They don't know how to discern. They have no discernment.
Yeah, they have no bearing. They don't know what is up and what is down, and they are thinking in their, like, twisted little head that, oh, well, Prince, you know, acts like he knows this stuff, and I've seen my smartest, like, because they've all seen their smartest friend try to take me on. Because you can rest assured that every time I start posting on their timeline, each of their little smartest propagandist, far leftist activist, or Democratic Party representative is like, oh, hold on, I got this guy. And oh, it turns out they don't.
Hold my beer. Hold my beer.
Hold my beer. I got this Prince guy. I'll take him to task. No, you won't. No. And then it's like, and then they all tell them, oh, no, and then those people end up blocking me. It's like, and then they encourage other people to. They're like, okay, the only thing to do with this guy is to basically quarantine him. Right. You know, they want me to they want me in a quarantine. Right. And of course they always underestimate just how many people I know. And that is going to always be the underestimation with me, because I have this weird simultaneously gift of somehow being socially appealing with also the weird nerdy smartness that's actually usually socially abrasive, and that's my gift in life. I'm not that smart and I'm not that social, but I'm somehow a good combination of both. So that's how these people get trapped and entirely disillusioned. And it's like either there's some of them who have decided that they respect me and they aren't gonna challenge our friendship over it. You know, like they're fine with things being the way that they are, and that if they have time to hear me talk about politics, they'll listen to me talk about politics, but usually they don't have time, and we've come to an understanding. Or there's some that are like, they'll kind of admit that they hate SJWs when we talk, and they'll admit that. They will admit that. And if it's anything less than that, maybe I just need to kiss them goodbye. Does that make sense? I think yes. Lordy is on the phone.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. No. I hear you.
I'm in the same boat.
You just got a super chat here from our friend Miles Kinslow, which I believe you donated in the last week also.
Yeah, I believe that Miles Kinslow is slowly trying to become one of my my most loyal patrons. So thank you. It's really just a compliment, but I will read it out loud. Hey Prince, I love your stream with Karen last week. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. I thought so too.
Yes.
So humble.
So we all think so.
But so okay, did you guys understand my question? Did you fully like the notion is basically just like I feel like I've gotten into every possible like you know, if you're watching like some weird superhero movie and maybe like Doctor Strange uses the time stone to go back and go to all of the different possibilities of how the conflict could end. And he's gone through 14,652,000 or something. And he's figured out that only one way possibly ends in their favor. Maybe I have done all of those possibilities on Facebook. Like, I've done all of those arguments. I understand where it leads. And especially after finishing my year-long Intersectional Feminism is Communist Particle Board research project that, you know, I felt like I already had a really good understanding of how the intersectionals argue just from my own experiences with them. I was pretty fucking solid. And now that I have the background, it's like, what else can I really learn from these people at this point, you know? And like, I don't want to lose, but like the people that I might lose in deleting Facebook, it would be less than 20. Like, I do not like these people mostly anymore. So
if you're not using it for anything else and you're not using it as a research platform, then what are you using it for?
Well, I'm using it to campaign. I do. Okay. Good question. Thank you. Thank you. That is exactly what I needed to be asked at this moment. DJ, will we ever see POQ's face? Or maybe I'll answer that if you do it in a super chat form, huh? I'm not bad looking, but I'm a little bit overweight at the moment.
These super chats have turned him into a monster.
So
the economy is what the economy is.
So, okay. The question was, what am I using Facebook for?
Mm-hmm.
And, okay. There is actually a thing that I shouldn't forget. There is the people that I haven't spoken to in a long while, who I kind of really like them a lot. I think deep down, maybe more than I'm willing to admit to myself. Because like, there's people that like, I see them posting stupid crap, and I purposefully ignore it because it's stupid crap, you know. I see it. Lordy, I'm muting you. Just mute yourself or unmute yourself when you come back. So there is people that I see posting stupid crap because they do, because I mean, if you believe even 10% of the lies that are being told in media right now, it'll get under your skin and you will post stupid crap. And so sometimes I really like these people and I don't want to judge them harshly. And so I just leave it alone. But that means that I don't know exactly the full extent of their awfulness. And then there's some other people that I regularly get into arguments with that are my really, really good trusted friends. Like there's, I mean, one guy in particular who actually stayed at me in my house, who is not the guy that you know, Lordy, is another one that stayed with me for close to a year, who I consider myself very close with, who I would say I actually love this guy. But he has Trump derangement syndrome, and it's sad to me. And I regularly get in arguments with him because it's like, I don't like seeing it, you know, like I can see how he's just out of touch enough to just not understand these things. So I feel like it's my responsibility, kind of a tough love sort of a thing. So there is these people that I feel like eventually I could get through to, and that maybe it's going to be after the year 2020 that I can find these people. And some of them, like this guy in particular that I keep arguing with, for example, he is not super social. Like he doesn't have that many friends on Facebook. And that I was one of his only I was one of the only particularly good sort of like hipstery friends that he had. Like he would go out to these gay clubs in San Francisco that were all hip and fashionable, and I would be the one guy that was younger that he would know. And So I don't have the feeling that if we all went on a new social networking platform, that I would be able to reconnect with him. So, it's do I answer questions potentially? If you tip me it with a super chat, then it would be a lot more likely to.
You just answered that one for free, though.
No, I did not. Wait, which one?
The question if you answer questions.
Oh, well, that's a paradox. So.
My thing with Facebook is that I don't like to use regular mobile texting or SMS, so the messenger is really convenient. But then I always get banned, and then they ban you out of the messenger too, which is super inconvenient. But I've actually like just friending kind of like random people on Facebook is really fun. I have like a really fun tapestry of different kinds of people. Like I have a bunch of anti-feminist friends, a bunch of tradcon friends, like the entire spectrum of it, right? And to like anti-vaxxer territory. And then like I watch them all like have drama with each other and stuff. The intactivist community online is super funny. We just like raid people's posts when they post about like their circumcision. Like if they keep it public, then like everybody who's like the page Bloodstained Men basically gets like gets notified. We all just go and like mob the post, and they're always like, holy shit, because like they have no idea that there's this massive backlash. And like literally we've actually like prevented circumcisions from happening just by bitching on Facebook. So like I don't know, like I think that's awesome. That's an indispensably awesome fucking tool.
Yeah,
and the fact that that's worked even once is just amazing.
No, and I feel like I've done things like that on Facebook in the past that have been, kind of effective. Like there's been like little things that I've done that I certainly cannot come up with one off the top of my head at the moment because I'm just not in the right mood. But the thing is, at this point, this sounds pretentious, but I am too high profile, both in terms of my YouTube channel, in that I'm constantly kind of like wondering if people are ever knowing what my YouTube channel is, because there are some people that I know in real life who do definitely know what my channel is, who don't like me, who are probably disparagingly telling people who I am behind my back. Like I know that has to be happening, but most of the people they'd be telling probably have me blocked anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm sure that it's spread. I'm sure it's spread. But the other thing is that I'm actually believe it or not, I'm kind of high profile, my actual name, and I don't mean because of my past doing music and stuff, which I did, but I mean that there's a lot of people on Facebook who just think of me as this person that they've never seen lose an argument, who they think of as this like right-wing person, which is technically not exactly it's like I know
you definitely are exceptional. Like people like friends of mine, right? Because we're friends on Facebook.
Oh, I bet I know who you're talking about.
But does
his name start with a J, and does he live in New York?
There's a few people like who know who you are, who are friends of mine, who have even spoken to me about you.
They have asked you, who is this Prince guy? What is his deal? Yeah. What do they say? What do they say?
Well, yeah, basically that, like they're nice because they respect me and they know that we're friends, and people don't really.
But let me guess. The question was first, okay, is he for real?
Yeah, basically, like they just want to know, do I actually like you? Like, can they talk shit to me about you? And I'm always just like, yeah, he's my friend. We actually do shit together, and like everything he says, I pretty much agree with. Like for the most part.
Do they make a sour face?
They like don't know what to do at that point because they definitely don't want to go in it. They don't want to argue with me either. Yeah. And so they usually just at that point they're like, because they want to. It's usually people who want to preserve the relationship, so they kind of just get quiet and they think about it for a while. Like,
do you know who that's happened to? Is your ex-boyfriend? like that, you know, the one that we
Yeah.
know in
Yeah.
common, obviously.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
he's said that that's come up numerous times, and like people are like, oh, by the way, people say that Prince is racist, and he's like, yeah, well, that's dumb because I generally agree with Prince, and I know pretty much all of his feelings about racial politics and stuff, and so if they think that, they're stupid.
Yeah.
And then they're like scared because spoilers, Lordy's ex-boyfriend is not white. So.
Yeah, so it's actually been really good because it has made people really think about their loyalties and like what it means, you know, like, well, do I want to listen to the media or do I want to listen to my friends, people I actually respect and have had experiences with?
Or listen to themselves.
Yeah.
Because like my thing is like, I don't even feel like I hate the word loyalty in the way that I feel like loyalty sounds so arbitrary. Like I don't feel like, okay. So the thing is, I think I have an aversion to the word loyalty because when I was a kid, my parents pit me in a battle against each other. It was a vicious custody battle, and there are a lot of many complicated factors and everything. And ultimately, overall, I would say that my mom was the better person, and I did always actually love my mom more. What I know now, and it took me a long time to learn absolutely every single bit of it. But there was me always loving my mom when I was little, and then feeling slightly betrayed by my mom when I felt like she was biased against me because I was a boy as I got older, and I was picked on by my feminist teachers in school. They just didn't like me because I was boyish, and some of them because I was like smarter than them, and I would, you know, be silly to them. I've talked about these stories before. These are like long stories about my own life. But the thing is that like ultimately I grew to realize about myself that like you're never going to meet somebody that is it's harder to get to trust you than me. Like I don't think I have the capacity to like truly trust people in the way that other people do. And it's because of my upbringing. And so I don't like this concept of loyalty because I feel like that's just like this thing where you decided that you are loyal to a person or something. What I want people to be loyal to is themselves and like what makes sense. And that's how I argue.
I'm loyal to truth.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And so it's like, hey, I can show you the truth. I can, lead you to water. I can't make you drink, but I will certainly help. If you're my friend, I will try to lead you to water. And I think that does register with people. And that's why people, like, there's been so many people, like what you're saying, like with this, like it sounds like they want to like find a way of like potentially discounting me. But none of them can, and so they have to like ask like people, like who know me, like, hey, is this? I trust you pretty well. You're a smart guy. You know this guy, and it's like, no, he's not entirely wrong. He's not crazy. He's, and I think that that's because of me not asking people to make that choice. I think that's one thing I do kind of do right, does that make sense?
Yeah. No, yeah, actually, it reminds me of in Atlas Shrugged, Ayn Rand has like a section on it where she's talking about this idea of loyalty, and that basically, like, if you're trying to win someone's favor, to win like reputation with them, to win their loyalty, the only reason that that's a value to that you even want that is if your intention is to later do something that they're not going to want you to do or not going to want you to support. So if you carry yourself with integrity, you don't really need this idea of loyalty. Like you're just gonna be aligned naturally, Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I really like. Okay, so what I have to say, what I really respected and who I have never had a reason to think this guy is not actually totally fucking rad is when Rekha Ali went on the Rubin Report and talked about Ayn Rand. Did you see that?
I never saw that. No, I never saw Rucka Rucka Ali on Rubin Report. I think
Oh
the
my
last
God.
thing I watched was Thomas Sowell.
Okay, you should go watch it because the thing is, so I kind of knew Rekha Ali, in a really random way. I don't. Do you ever meet my friend Edindro? He's a YouTuber. No, not you. But
Wait, me? How would I meet him? I don't.
I used to live stream with this guy all the time. So back when I used to drunk stream all the time, he was unemployed for like 4 or 5 months, and so he was always drunk streaming, like always. And I had a slightly bigger channel than him, and everybody else like had jobs and stuff. And then it was like me and him being just drunkards every night, and so we would have these streams that would go on for like 6-8 hours of just him and I getting like wasted. And it turned out that like, you know, he's actually a pretty cool dude in a lot of ways. Like I would probably, under the right circumstances, be a long-term friends with this guy. I'm kind of mad at him for a specific reason that I'm not going to get into at all at the moment, you know, like it's ultimately trivial. Like it wouldn't be hard to make up about this, but I it's a thing, you know. And he had this tendency to get like kind of like blackouty drunk and also semi belligerent, but you wouldn't be able to know because he's good at carrying his liquor, right? Kind of like me, actually. Like I can get just like wacky wasted and not remember it, and everybody swears that I'm entirely holding it together, and they're like, dude, you kind of turned into a total asshole. I'm like, really? Did I don't think I was. And they're like, no, I mean, you left. I mean, you said that you were going to leave and then you went home. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I got home all right. And they're like, well, you were about to get kicked out. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay. So he would do these things that were like that. And he had more than one night where he wrote me the next day and he was like, hey, Prince, you gotta like never let me be on streams when I'm as drunk as that. And I was like, well, I don't know when you're drunk like that. I'm always drunk too. And, you know, he's like a straight guy. It's not like we even, like if he maybe was like on a stream with a girl and he was hitting on her or something, like I don't remember exactly what it was, but like it's not like I was even paying attention to like what he was paying attention to always. But one of the things that he did was when he was a channel that, you know, he had no more than 5,000 subscribers. We were streaming on my channel and I didn't even know who Rekha Rekha Ali was. I think that somehow Rekha opened up his messages on Twitter, and I somehow he could send him a message. Maybe Rekha just keeps his messages open for some, like, because he's always, you know, looking for material or whatever. So Edindro wrote him a message saying, hey, you can come on. And I told Edindro that it was okay to invite Rekha on to my stream. And Rekha actually showed up. And so, Lordy, you probably don't know who this guy is.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so he is kind of like the godfather of internet parody comedy songs. He, like, when YouTube was first getting started, he made some song, and it was like one of the first viral rap songs that was humorous, and he's been famous ever since. And he can't even remember how many of his channels have gotten terminated due to like offensive language and stuff, because he's totally into being edgy and everything. And he's actually really smart. You know, like it's not surprising that if you think about it, that guy would actually be smart. But he's not pretentious at all. You know, like he's very also not pretentious. And so he showed up onto my stream, and the funny thing is that he's sober, like he doesn't drink at all. And so we were all like drunk, and I didn't even know who he was. And so somebody made a parody of a song of his. He had a song called Everything is Racist that he made, and then Chris Reagan, this other guy, made a song called Everything is Sexist. And I started singing Everything is Sexist. I'm all drunk, and he's like, "No, that's not me. That's Chris Reagan." And I'm like, "No, no, no, that's you. That's Everything is Sexist." And he's like, "No, no, I wrote Everything is Racist, and you're singing Everything is Sexist." I was like, "Oh." And then Edindro was like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "So why am I here? What's up?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't think you'd actually show up." and that was the whole thing. And I was like, I don't even know who you are.
Oh God.
But he was just like bored. I guess that's what you do if you are entirely sober. You just like sit around at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night. And
make parody videos.
Yeah, but he has. I probably like if you look up Rucka Ollie, he probably has like close to 1 million subscribers or so.
Yeah.
And so
Well, yeah. So I'm not saying sober people can't.
Oh no, whatever. But yeah, no. So I always sort of followed him a little bit after that, just because and he is really, really into Ayn Rand, is his thing. He's unabashedly so Ayn Rand's credited as actually founding a new philosophical school of thought, which is a really rare thing to do in the history of the world. Like if you actually if you come up with a philosophical way of viewing the world, you are a very exceptional person. In the way that history remembers people, as I'm sure Spacepan can explain, because he's a philosophy major. And
Ayn Rand is like the philosophy F word. Like you mentioned her in a philosophy class, and your professor is going to say, "Oh, you think she's a philosopher, huh?" Like they really, really don't like her. She's
no, and that's what Rucka talked about. He talked about the snobbery of her philosophy, and so what I would say is one of Rucka's defining characteristics is that he absolutely hates conventions. And he thinks that people who rely on traditionalism are totally pretentious and annoying. And people because when he was on the stream on my channel, they asked him, "Hey, what are your favorite stand-up?" Oh, you know who was on there? This channel called Gemini, who has like over 50,000 subscribers, but he didn't have hardly any at the time. And so he was like, Gemini was into comedy, and he was asking him, he was like, "Oh, so Rucka, what's your favorite stand-up comics?" And he was like, "I don't like stand-up comedy." And he's like, "You don't like it?" He's like, "No, it's a dead art form. It's totally dead. No, I think all the comedy that's happening is on the internet." And like, I'm not even gonna go so far as to say that, but that's like the type of mentality that this guy has, because he does like parody comedy, rap songs and stuff, and so the way that he talked to Dave Rubin, from what I remember about objectivism, was he was like, "Yeah, it's like I've come into like over and over in my life, ever since I read Atlas Shrugged, I've met all sorts of people who think that they obviously think that they're smarter than I am. They obviously think really highly of themselves, and I bring up Ayn Rand and said that I've always really liked it, and they just they scoff at me, and they act like I'm stupid for liking her, but they never say anything that disproves what she was actually saying." And so I don't know, I think maybe that says something about her. Like maybe she was onto something that nobody else does, that nobody else gets.
Well, yeah, sorry.
So no, that's the end of that whole thing. That's how I became more interested in her, and what I've heard about her. But I only read The Fountainhead. That's the only book of hers I read.
Yeah, and it's, the thing with Ayn Rand is like she doesn't just get criticized from like the very like more conventional perspectives, but like a lot of libertarians are very, very anti-Rand too, because they really hate the fact that she's seen as a libertarian, because she did not identify with libertarians and actually had a lot of beef with them. So it's all really interesting. She's a fascinating, fun character. The way I see it is that it's kind of like you're in this situation where everybody was like a prisoner, and she was the first one to escape, and she did it with a fucking wrecking ball, right? So then all these libertarians get to come by after the fact, and they're like, oh, well, now that the light's in the room, we can totally see, like, there was a key hanging on a door. We could have used that to open this up and go out this way, right? You were so messy for using your wrecking ball or whatever. But like, she was so necessary to just break through and create something very different.
Yeah,
And
it became a hindsight is 2020 thing.
totally. And like she deliberately portrayed her philosophy in a way that was like super not palatable, because like she felt like she was above having to dumb it down or having to present it in a way that was persuasive. She was like, I'm just going to say what I think. And like there was so much just boldness to her philosophy that was really fucking cool. And like I love the fact that like Atlas Shrugged comes out, right? And to her it's like her magnum opus, and she sees this as her way of preventing this wave of communism and socialism that she fled Russia to escape. She left Russia to get away from it, and then sees all of it happening in America. And she's like, fuck this. This is bullshit. Like, why? Right? So she thinks, I'm going to write this big book. People are going to get it. It's going to change everything. And then, the critics all hate it. And then like, it doesn't have like a big liftoff. But then like there's this huge surge of people who end up liking it. But then even that like kind of isn't good enough, because she's like, well, they're changing my philosophy. Call yourself something else if you don't believe everything that I wrote, right? Like she's just really funny that way. But like there really is a lot of the basic thing in her philosophy. Like one thing that really kind of helps understand where she stands in relation to other things is if you pick up I think it's Philosophy Who Needs It. It's like near the beginning of it. She has a section where she is addressing the is-ought problem, right? Just a famous philosophical problem that you can't derive what ought to be based on just observing what is. And then people build a theory of knowledge that says we can only get knowledge about what is out there in the world, and there's no way for us to bridge this gap. And her response to it, it's a little bit dismissive, but I think it's quite brilliant. Other people look at it and they say that it's just like, they say that it's non-philosophical, but essentially it's that there's value that's implied in your existence, and it's sort of formed the basis of argumentation ethics, which is really a perspective where you can justify a lot of these ought-based claims, which is essentially that by existing, by doing things, you can't not have values, and therefore you can't hold things that are in direct contradiction to your own existence.
Oh, okay. Wait. Yeah, I think one of the things. Okay, so tell me if this goes along lines with her philosophy, because I feel like this is one of the thoughts that I had when I was listening to that interview, was that self-destruction is considered a big no-no, because you are supposed to like, if you exist at all, then why do you exist? And you have to justify that with yourself. And a lot of people live under the notion that you are allowed to do whatever you want to yourself, but that's not actually true. Is that in there?
In a way, it's kind of, she places a lot of importance on survival and in the practical and in things that are like life affirming. So there's sort of kind of almost like a survival of the fittest sort of a mentality to it. And one of the like philosophical little puzzles surrounding it is this idea that, well, technically you could rationally prefer to kill yourself, right? And on one hand, you can take that as, yeah, the fact that you're not killing yourself implies all of these values and therefore creates a framework of things that you should, therefore want to do. But on the other hand, the existence of that as an option in some way creates a problem for it as a so-called universal philosophy. It's kind of like, I like this idea of we always talk about the objective and subjective as though it's a mutually exclusive dichotomy, but I don't believe that. I believe that the subjective is objective. Your subjective states are arising from objective matters of fact. And the same thing is true with fact and opinion. Opinions is just a constellation of fact-based claims. And the fact that we treat them as a mutually exclusive dichotomy is actually just sophistic nonsense designed to...
I hate it when you get all postmodern. You have
Sorry.
these moments where when you get postmodern,
Well, I'm doing the opposite. I'm kind of making a case for materialism, you know?
Yeah, but you have a tendency to blur the edges between the two. Okay, so I guess maybe that is a fudging. Fudging was the term that we learned earlier today. Maybe that's fudging that I don't quite, or fuzzing is that I don't get in your arguments, because I've said before that when it comes to certain arguments, like arguments around philosophy and stuff, you're smarter than I am. So.
Well, the simplest way to get it is that the subjective is really objective but relative.
Uh-huh.
And it's the relative part of it that makes it so-called subjective. But fundamentally, everything is objective. And like fundamentally, your claims to opinion are fact-based claims. You know, they're either right or they're wrong. Like, for example, like an example of opinion we always say is, oh, like, my favorite color is yellow. Well, that was a fact-based claim. I could totally lie, right?
Yeah.
It's a statement of preference. It's a fact-based claim. And if you think about an expert opinion, well, why are they the expert? Because they have a bunch of knowledge and know a bunch of facts about the thing, you know?
But what if they're colorblind?
Well, I mean, I think that we can... Well, there's physical properties within like your brain structure with like your cones and shit and your eyeballs and in your neural system that...
I was kidding.
Sorry. So I got a little weaponized autism on there. I took a neuroscience for babies class.
You took a neuroscience for babies class?
It was no, I took a class, like a 1,000-level college course on sensation and perception, which was really interesting. But man, I'm really bad with the hard sciences. But anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent. But like, it sounds really complex, but the secret is that the way that it's actually taught, where you think of these as two different dichotomies, that actually makes things more complex. When you see them as one packaged within the other, it actually simplifies so many things.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I can sort of see, if you think of one as being supreme over the other.
Exactly. And like that, yeah. And I've found that it simplifies, and like that's how I've been thinking about things for the past like few years, and I haven't really found a good counterexample to it, and it really does seem to disentangle a lot.
Yeah, well, you know what? That that's the kind of thing that from my experience as an old person, that's often something that takes time, because if you have never seen an example of something that counters that belief that there's one supreme framework for viewing everything, give it a few years and someone will come up with it.
No, yeah. Well, it's also like when you have a new concept, it always starts out kind of muddy, and then you just have to hold it in your head and just see how it pans out and see situations where you can kind of see whether or not it's applying and whether or not it's giving you useful information, or whether or not the things you're seeing are creating a problem for that theory.
Yeah.
Of course, it could be confirmation bias, so I don't know. Who the fuck knows? Maybe we're all just retarded. Who knows?
Well,
disavow. I didn't mean to say the R word. Disavow.
Yeah. No, but there's also some... Oh, Jesus. What the fuck was that? Oh, sorry. Wait, what just fell from my stand thing? That's weird. Okay, so there is all sorts of little things that can happen in terms of just hard regroups, kind of just in how you view everything. And I remember this, and like this sounds so intersectional to even say this, because this is the type of framework that intersectionals would use. But when I was a kid, before I figured out that I was gay, I figured out that I was fat. And I realized this sounds like kind of a Lindy West argument, you know, like one of those body positive obese feminists or something. Like, when you're gay, you can at least hide that you're gay, but when you're fat, everybody knows that you're fat, so it's worse. And it's like, well, that's dumb. Don't think of the
Press F for all the thigh gaps that could have been.
Yeah, that's just dumb. Just don't think of the world like that. That's dumb. But I was very convinced that being fat was the worst thing that you could ever be, because of the amount of crap that I got for being fat. And it was just this never ending thing that I got for being chubby when I was young. And I wrote these, like, I wrote, if nobody would ever have copies of this because it was written on like notebook paper, but like I wrote like poetry that I think I even read out loud once or twice. I don't know if I read it out loud, but I gave it to like a friend of mine or two, and they were like, wow, that was really well written. They might have been being, you know, full of crap just because they were girls that was trying to be sensitive. But it was about how bad it was to be fat. And I really was genuinely convinced that that was such a horrible thing, to be fat. And then I came out as gay at the age of 14 in a Black neighborhood. And that was like the new thing, that it was like the worst thing that you could possibly be. And I really did feel that way. Like I really entirely did. And now I do legitimately believe, like in my every pit of my emotional soul, that the worst thing that I can be is I don't know what the best word is for it, but like maybe somebody who tells the truth, who is trying to be self-sacrificing, but is seen as somebody who is like privileged, like seen as someone who's selfish or something by other people. Even though what I'm actually trying to do is like help everybody be their best selves, you know? And I'm seen by the intersectionals as just some guy that's
We're calling it alpha male.
Okay, but
Like
that's
a true alpha male. Not
sure.
like toxic masculine domination culture, but like this is something me and my friend have been talking about, is like the resurgence.
Like what would it be? What would be a real alpha male now? Hold on. I'm gonna mute myself, and I'm gonna put you on speaker so I can hear myself. So describe what your version of alpha male is. Okay.
So we get the definition from looking at wolves mostly, but like you can see it in different animal systems. But like the strong male has a balanced self and works in balance with the entire system, but also like is one that teaches about limits. It also like helps to find like who are the strongest, and works in tandem with the female of the group, who is taking care of, you know, other kinds of things. And so in society, what we're looking at is the idea that they're because in the wolf pack there's lots of males, but what makes the alpha male different? Like the other males are the provider males. They're going around providing constantly, but the alpha male is not necessarily the provider. He's there, he's teaching, he's hunting, he's working with the younger wolves, the pups, to teach them, to help them to play games and socialize and learn in their growth. It's not necessarily that idea of the provider where many men were taught that, oh, you are meant to be the breadwinner, you are meant to be the provider, but that's not really the role of the alpha male. That's what we call a beta male. And women instinctually are attracted to alpha males. Like a beta male to a woman is of course nice because you have a male who will provide for you, but she will almost always fuck around on that guy. But a true alpha male who might have resources or something, but is not necessarily existing as the provider to the female, but is existing as like, you know, a strong being in of himself, is more attractive to the female. She is going to be more likely to want to hold on to him and work to impress him. It's a totally different energy.
Alpha fucks beta bucks, so it's a well-established body of thinking that lines up perfectly with that. Also Charles here in the top chat, shout out to him in the HBR Discord. He says, in Chim studies, we see that the alpha exercises a lot of compassion for other males necessary to the loyalties of the other males. So there's definitely a lot to that. I was just gonna say it's the pickup artists. It's obviously the PUAs. It's obviously the ones who crush the most pussy. I get that pussy. That's the alpha male, right?
I like what the comment you read out. I didn't. That's exactly in line with what I'm talking about.
No, yeah, and that's the thing too, is like so much of the dialogue surrounding it, talking about like toxic masculinity and everything. It's so like it loses that entire like three-dimensional aspect of what makes like people interesting. And this idea that like a man succeeds just because he's like all in one thing and like doesn't have any rounded out characteristics. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit into understanding society or understanding the way families work or understanding even just like any individual person.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't fit into how you would understand Infinity War.
Yes. I've never seen that movie. Should I bother? Or is
yes,
it like...
it's oh my god! No, it's the Star Wars of the last 20 years.
Yes, it's excellent.
It was really good. Okay, that was the one with Thanos and the gauntlet.
It's like modern myth. Yeah, modern myth.
No, it is like you can. I've seriously watched it like over 15 times. I bought it on my PS4, and I get drunk, and I decide to like watch the particularly moving scenes again because everything is perfect about it. Like
shit. Okay, that's a ringing endorsement. Don't overhype it. I have this tendency where I overhype things. I'll be like, oh my god, guys, I just discovered this thing. It's literally the greatest thing of all fucking time. It'll change your goddamn life.
Yeah, and then with you, it's like a fucking like phone application RPG or something.
We have Shadows and Dust mentioning red pill for Christian boomers. Jesus got totally violent at the time in the Bible when he chewed out the money changers and flipped over their tables. Yeah.
I obviously have no idea what you're talking about. So
when he drove the merchants out of the temple because they were shilling, which really is a great libertarian argument for property rights.
I don't know anything about Jesus.
I know a couple things. I used to be like
you prayed the gay away. That's one thing I know about you.
That's right.
You tried.
It didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, at least you were honest with yourself about like trying it, not succeeding. I mean, you know, some gay men were very, very hardcore religious and then decided to become, you know, like weird creeps that followed around straight guys and hoped that the straight guy would have sex with them for a long time or something. It's kind of weird. That'd be weird, right? So
that'd be
pretty weird.
I know people like that.
I've heard about things like that. So the thing about Infinity War, and I'm not going to give away any plot details aside from the archetypes of the characters, is that it would be easy. Okay, so if the three hero protagonist males in Infinity War that I would say would be the Chris Pratt character, Gamora's boyfriend, who's a very big character mainly because he's Gamora's boyfriend, and I would say that he's the beta male. The Chris Pratt Star-Lord, right? Like, yes. right? Like he's always because he's takes second place to Gamora. Gamora's a better fighter. She's actually smarter than him, and he's just kind of gonna do whatever seems to be the thing to do at any time. You know?
Yeah, so he's made fun of endlessly by the raccoon.
And everyone, like,
Everyone.
yeah, it's like kind of a thing, like even in the other movies, like that he's, you know, just this kind of like you know, and the only time he takes a stand in the prequels, or what, not prequels, but you know, the previous movies, is fighting his own father. That's the only time he ever takes a stand. And then the person who would be, you know, what you were describing in terms of the alpha is someone who's actually not necessarily the strongest, but who teaches the kids how to be the person and blah, blah, blah. So the strongest would be Thor, right?
Right.
But maybe the alpha is the Captain America, who, like, technically you look at that whole story and like he's not like okay, like you look at the three of them and like, okay, I mean, I have a thing for Chris Pratt, like technically, like I would he would be the guy that I would most see myself having sex with. But Thor is the hottest, you know, like Thor is the guy that you would like obviously if he was like really into having sex with you, you wouldn't say no.
That's how you end up in the nightclub with the shirt off and the wedding ring, but it's okay because it's Thor.
Yeah, it's like okay, like yeah, if you tried to say no 2 or 3 times and he was like insistent, like, well, okay, put my legs up over your shoulders, like, all right. But Captain America was the one who had it all together and who has that. The thing is, actually, out of all of those 3, he was the first one that I found remarkably cute, and it wasn't even wasn't even in that movie. It was in okay, so Captain America, oddly, is actually in Marvel movies before. He was he played Johnny Flame in the Fantastic Four movies.
Oh yeah.
And he looked totally different because when they cast him for Captain America, they buffed him up by probably like 50 pounds. And so he's like way buffer and looked way different. And
his hair's long and stuff.
Yeah, so he and I thought it was cuter when he was Johnny Flame because he wasn't supposed to be the like main character. But he just had that X factor to him back then. You know, like there's something hard to describe about his look that was captivating. You know, it wasn't so much maybe like looking okay. I mean, I thought he was really cute at the time. Like I was like, ooh, I want to get that guy. But I looking back on it now, I realized that Captain America was not it wasn't so much that he was like the like super good looking guy. It was more the X factor, the thing that's hard to place your finger on about him, and that's what he remained to this day. And that's almost a little bit how they cast him, or maybe he just ended up on that with happenstance. But the Captain American character, you know, he's not that powerful, and he also wasn't all that pivotal in the plot of the main drama, but he also was one of the most important characters at the same time.
Yeah, and he does make a stand, and he gets like, you know, they hate him at one point. He gets like, right? He has like his whole storyline where he kind of falls out of
technically
favor.
in the prequel in the Civil War.
That's what I'm saying is his whole backstory is he went through a lot of adversity and had to like stand up against his masters or something like that to.
I would have to watch Civil War again, and Spaceman hasn't seen this, so I shouldn't get too into it. But the point is that like he is the in between the definite kind of beta, which would be the Chris Pratt character, and the super hot guy.
You know, it's Johnny Storm. Johnny Flame is his gay cousin.
Johnny Flame. Okay.
He's like he's kind of like a great standard for just conventional attraction. He's just like the most like perfectly conventionally attractive person.
No, not
usually
compared,
people-
not compared to Thor.
I would disagree. I don't know. Maybe I'm a lesbian. It turns out. I don't know.
Well, okay, at least not in the most recent. Okay, because
Thor is
Okay,
always played off as the hot one because he's got the accent and everything. Like,
well, no, but in Infinity War, Thor was fucking hot.
yeah. Then
He-
he played the
I
badass one. He's always like,
didn't like him with the long hair, but when he had the brown hair, that because the brown hair matches his features better, and it was short. It was like, oh, because I think that they did that on purpose. Like, I think that the directors were like, what are you doing? Okay, he's supposed to be hotter than Chris Pratt. We got to at least like match him up with his features. And so they like got rid of his long hair and his blonde bleaching, which, you know, like kind of screwed up his look.
Oh, maybe that's it because I'm imagining the long blonde hair. So maybe that's a fact.
No, look at Thor Infinity War. He's fucking hot.
I was thinking that Thanos, actually, even though he's the villain in all of this, that his whole character is about, right, his whole premise is that what he is doing is actually compassionate by killing half the people or something.
No. It's twisted. The pathway to hell leads to good intentions. It's the archetypal father figure. In terms of the epic archetypes. My mother and I were talking about this because she's right into Jordan Peterson. Actually, and I showed her it, and she was trying to think about who everybody would be, and she was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right." She agreed that Thanos is the old. Like the thing that makes the most sense, and nobody can deny it. But there's a new challenger coming to beat it, but everybody else fails. And you're not sure who is the one who's the challenger who's going to come along and beat it. And
Right.
so what we have at the end of Infinity War is it's going to be one of the three. It's going to be either Captain America, because he doesn't die. Thor doesn't really count because he's a god, you know, so it's like he's just the most powerful person that is around, but he's not really a person, you know, and everyone kind of knows that.
Right.
He's just like their powerful friend. But like, okay, so you have Captain America, he doesn't die, and then you have Doctor Strange, who you always sense that there's something more going on, and if you actually really think deeply about the plot of Infinity War, there's something more going on potentially. I'm not going to spoil it. Yeah. And then there's what was the other? Iron Man. He doesn't die either. And you're trying to decide, okay, so who's going to come around and save the day? Because it's going to be one of these two guys. You're thinking Iron Man or Captain America probably. It's going to because the thing is, that it's going to be between Captain America and Iron Man having a very strong role. And you know that because of the Civil War plot that happened, and it was them fighting each other.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you why you thought Captain America was more the alpha than Iron Man.
I don't exactly know. I don't exactly have an no, and you know what? I wasn't actually even thinking. I had forgotten about Iron Man when I was making that statement. I would say that it is a total toss up between Captain America as the honest and Iron Man as the clever.
Right.
And that is the dichotomy, which is what's beautiful about the story. But we shouldn't be drifting off into space, as to say, for too long.
Well, but the point of talking about the alpha male, it was because you brought up the whole idea of different ways of being that you've embodied that were hated, like being gay or whatever, and now in the role that is taken now. But and that's why I said I think that the alpha male, this idea of the alpha male, has been under attack.
Yeah, or maybe it's morphing. like I it sucks to admit this a little bit because I hate saying this because I hate male bashing, you know, like it's something that I have a deep visceral hatred of. And for me it's not because it's not like something that I was born with. My first memory of male bashing was my father complaining about it because my father, my mother was a feminist by the time she got it together to divorce my father. And I think that she wouldn't have ever divorced my father if she didn't become a feminist, which adds a whole different dimension to it because she actually should have divorced my father. Like he wasn't good for being with her, you know? And one of the things is that he started complaining a lot about male bashing in media and stuff. And from her and probably from my sister and everything. But then I got picked on in school by late grade school by my teachers. And it was male bashing. That's what it was. Like it was just me acting like a boy. And my dad was like, basically like, yeah, see, this is what I was warning you about. Like, and so I'm like, wait, and I didn't really connect the two things. Like I wasn't wanting to admit that it was the two same things, but it's not like I didn't remember it. And then eventually it came back around full circle to the intersectionals trying to pick on gay men, just literally for being men at all. And then it was like, yeah, this is a thing. This is absolutely a thing.
Look at how even like the idea that a gay man can celebrate the idea of being masc is so dangerous. Like, oh,
Yeah.
how dare you be masc?
Yeah.
Like,
or how dare you be even interested in masculine men?
right.
Yeah, it is horrible. It's like it's a horrible way of viewing the world. And so it came together in my mind that I hate the Gillette commercial. I hate all of that stuff that is packaged there. But at the same time, I mean, okay, so if we are going to be relatively if we're going to give men our dues, and hey, you know what, Logan McCree posted a beautiful quote. I don't know if he came up with this himself. So we had this guest on the show the one time who's a former gay porn star who's now an MRA, and he's in a relationship with a woman, and we could stream with him again in the future, and he's a cool guy. But and he's not like not attracted to men, you know, he's just in a relationship with a woman now, and he's only interested in being monogamous with her. So I'm not going to speak about who exactly he is, but that's sort of along the lines of what we were talking about. Well, the TERFs are trying to get through to him and trying to get him on their side. It's probably not going to work because he's very not into feminists at all. But TERFs are really dumb people. They just don't understand how people think at all because they live in an alternate reality where, you know, being a feminist who doesn't like intersectionality is a good idea. Like what? Why would you ever think that was a good idea? So Logan McCree, in a conversation on Twitter, he said the quote, if the future is female, then hope is male. It's a good
But
quote.
I'm sorry,
Right?
if the first part, what was the first part?
If the future is female, then hope is male.
Oh, so it's
And so what I'm taking from that, and somehow that registers, right? What I'm taking from that is that males are always the first to innovate, and then maybe females come and appropriate or repurpose their innovations and sort of drip all their vaginal juices all over it or whatever, and it becomes the thing that they can now say, well, we do this too, and it's like, yeah, but you didn't come up with it. You know, and so maybe that just sort of happens. Like, maybe men kind of do these things and they're forced to do certain things for a while, and then they scale it back, and then they go into the next thing. And so maybe men are like, maybe there are some things, like maybe this whole like quote unquote toxic masculinity, maybe that's just outdated masculinity. And maybe instead of going up onto women on the street being like, yo, how you doing? Maybe now we're just really, really good at video games, you know, or something. Like, it's sad. It does not make sense.
Well, definitely, like, that evidence is getting channeled like elsewhere now, and it's hard to know whether or not that's going to have some like really practical expression later. I'm pretty optimistic that it will, but it kind of goes back to the whole idea of like SPWs don't create anything.
Okay, that was a lot of thoughts. Make it clear.
Oh, I just meant that like the whole idea of like masculine hope, and that now we're just seeing men like who are good at video games. It's sort of like that's where a lot of the energy is being channeled, and it gets depicted, you know, as like, oh, men are kind of checking out from society and just doing shit that doesn't matter. Yeah. But I mean, how many other very masculine pursuits in the past would have been seen as like really frivolous? You know, like reading novels used to be seen as like what watching TV is now, you know?
Academia, being doctors, being lawyers, those were things that had to have been like, you know, in the 1950s. Like, those were probably the top of the masculine game. You know, it was like, you know, oh, you're a schmuck if you're actually like, and I say this because my dad was born in 1933, and he went to college when people didn't know why he would have gone to college. Like, they were confused about that. And it ended up he ended up being kind of a little bit of a pimp, you know, like in terms of the women that he got through the course of his life by acting the way that he did. And so like maybe now it's like and like, you know, he did have his levels of what would be the word, sexual machismo that he always had, you know, but he was never like getting in fights as an adult or anything. But he did have this kind of like, maybe he, you know, he probably would approach women on the street and stuff, like the kind of thing that was in the Gillette commercial. He probably did do that kind of a thing. And
I mean, okay, how else are you supposed to meet a woman in the days
in the random pairing in a video game?
Like, honestly, like back in the day, if you weren't playing video games, you weren't on Tinder, you didn't have any of this stuff. How did you meet women?
Well, but this isn't back in the day. This is the advertisement is about the current day.
I know. Well, when I watched that, I had the same reaction as you. I was like, so this is not modern. This is like an echo.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, it's trying to cast into the past the things that we can do without. And this is, and here's the thing. I hate that, but what I hate about it is because I look at that ad and I'm just like, okay, but nobody's actually like this. Okay, and then feminists say, well, true, but if no one's actually like this, why do you take offense to this? And I'm just like, okay, because they're making this accusation. And they're like, well, but the point that they would always make is like, well, why do you take offense to the accusation if it doesn't have any truth to you? And that feels like an accusation of itself. Like they're trying to say, oh yeah, it sounds like you're guilty. Sounds like you're real guilty. But, you know, even smart non-feminist women, I know, woman in point, Sister Danger, sort of had that reaction to it. And she wasn't meaning it in bad faith. Like, she wasn't meaning that as a way to attack men. It was just sort of like, I don't really see why there was that much to actually object to it. And we had a little bit of a talk about it. And I was like, well, I guess I don't really have anything to disagree with you about it. And my video about the Gillette was mainly that I was just making predictions about how both sides would handle it. I made predictions about how the left would handle it, and I made predictions about how the right would handle it. And she was like, "Oh, fair enough." You know,
there has been an influence, like, of men. I've noticed, and maybe that's just because of, you know, like, what is it, bias when something's at the front of your mind. But multiple times watching one man talk to another man in a social setting about something kind of similar to how it depicts it in the ad. Like, for example, my friend was outside of a club in the city and having a cigarette, and he noticed the guy standing there, kind of just starts talking to the guy. He's like, "What are you doing out here?" He's like, "Oh, I live around the corner. I come out here around 2 a.m. when all the bars let out and basically wait for drunk women." You know, and not like he's, you know, coercing them, but he is there knowing that they're going to be horny and drunk and coming out of the bars. And
he actually said that? Who says that? And like, was this in a gay neighborhood?
No, this was in a straight neighborhood in San Francisco, and it was just like a dude talking to my friend.
Wait. For the record, anybody who's in the audience that's never really been to San Francisco, this is in a gay-ish neighborhood, but not a super gay neighborhood.
This is where there were a bunch of straight clubs, like, okay. Like, you know, like near, what's that place? Kind of near the Eagle, but not near the Eagle.
So, by like the DNA Lounge?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And
yeah, there's lots of drunk bitches there.
Yeah, it's a meat market for sure. I mean, it's a crazy place. It's always sexual. It's a meat market, but it's always like, you know, you always assume it's just like everyone's in the clubs doing the thing. And here's a guy who like lives around the corner, doesn't go to the clubs. He just knows there's going to be drunk bitches at this time, and it's, you know, it's easy pickings. And like, and the thing is, on some level, I'm like, dude, gay guys do that shit all the fucking time. So I'm not.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm not.
I've gotten laid on the street. Guys that I didn't even make in the bar.
Yeah, it's totally so. You know, so but then my friend felt, you know, the need to tell that guy that wasn't cool. You know, that he was.
It's not. It's not cool.
It's not cool. But it's just this. You know, so it's interesting because I don't know if my friend would have said that if it hadn't been for this whole, you know, like, speak up and tell
controversy.
Yeah.
Could you just imagine trying to do like the opposite role where like you're gonna wait and then like white knight for these poor defenseless women, like to like come into like cock block them, and then you're like, God damn it, I was gonna get pounded. I wanted that. Like, tearing away that dick with your Me Too bullshit. Fuck you.
Margaret,
is that what it's gonna take? Is that what it's gonna take for like women to wake up and realize like this is, you don't want this? Like, honestly, those drunk bitches, they want the option. I'm sorry, options.
Wait,
choices. I don't care.
No. Like, Margaret show had actually a really funny joke about that. It was so good, and she was like, "I love going out to clubs with my gay male friends because gay male friends they're so fun. They're so fun to go out with, except for one thing. If they hook up, they will leave you so quick. They'll just be like, oh, you can take a bus, you can take the train, you can take a cab. You go, girl. You a big girl. You can. You go. Goodbye." And they're like, your female friends will just be like, "Oh my God, I came here with my friends. I can't just like go home with you. I'm with my friends. I don't want no scrubs." Okay. So that was a song by TLC. At the time, that was popular. Yeah.
Press up for left eye.
No scrubs.
Yeah. So yeah. But that is actually a thing with women.
Mm-hmm.
They the uglier girls in particular have this and I've seen this. I can't think of a specific time. Usually I have the actual specific memory, and I'll go into the long story that takes like 10 minutes. But I can't remember. No, but I have seriously seen the not so hot girl waiting around, and I'm like talking to the not so hot girl, and we're like, "Yeah, are we gonna go back to your friend's house and like have another drink? And she's like, oh, I don't know. We're waiting for Krista. She's like talking to this guy over there. Krista, are you coming? Hold on. What is just a second? And then it's like, and then the girl, the not so hot girl is like, come on, Krista, seriously. He doesn't even have a car. Like, oh, come on, actually. Like, actually, are you really gonna go with him? Like, and then it becomes like an actual, like, you can see that they're mad at each other, and that the ugly girl is like, let's just go back to your house and have all the rest of your alcohol. And the hot girl is like, leave me alone. I'm just negotiating terms.
Yep. Welcome to just what it really is, and everyone's consenting. Okay.
Yeah, no, and that's the other thing that, okay, so one of the things that I think is a problem with I have this, I've been drinking whiskey. Oh, and for the record, we're going overtime on Gaytriarchy because Chadwick didn't show up, which means that I'm going to be unlisting this video because this non-special celebrity appearance is not going to actually stay as a listed video on my channel. So that's not what's going on. So,
yeah. But we've had like over 20 people here the whole time, which is great. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and you can certainly give me some super chats, and I will answer your questions. And so we'll keep chatting for a little while. There's a massive snowstorm in Seattle, so I've been not sleeping very well to prepare for that, and I'm finishing some alcohol. So ask me some questions. I'll be around for a little while. And
okay. I'm probably gonna give you maybe 20 more minutes if you're lucky.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
So thing is, you know what? One of the things that I think people on YouTube, just as a general thing, just don't really understand is what it's actually really like on the meat markets and the clubs and the bars. That the type of things that we talk about when we talk about these, you know, high pickup traffic areas, and what it's like to like, so okay, I'm not saying like, oh yeah, as a good looking, I'm not that good looking right now, you know, like I'm not, but I've been reasonably good looking, but I've also been with guys who are more good looking, you know, a lot. And there is this very profound difference between what it's actually like to be with people who this complicated dynamic, like these unspoken rules between, you know, the good-looking girls, the not so good-looking girls, the good-looking guys, the not so good-looking guys, in straight relationships, and then different ones with gay relationships, and then with people who are just observing these things. And there's so many subtle cues that go into all this stuff. And I would say that pop music tells you more about this stuff than movies do. You know, like you see movies, and movies try to explain a pickup scene, but it's all done up in lights and everything, so you don't really. But pop music somehow like captures the moment in poetry type and pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, like Lady Gaga's Just Dance. It's not really like the club scene, a little bit, but it feels more like house party kind of dynamic, and like it really captures it pretty well. That's what I think.
Okay, so I didn't actually have anywhere to go with that statement, really. And now my co-hosts are like, "Oh, are you serious? Are you serious? Are you drinking?"
I just want to say though, like all the dating apps really get a bad rep, but like compared, like the question is always, like Thomas Sowell says, compared to what? Compared to what? And I think people forget that like the bar scenes are like bar fight. That's a thing. You know what I mean? Any fucking like Tinder fights? Not really. You know, like
I mean, I go out, but I don't meet people when I go out.
Rarely.
It's really weird to like approach someone that's a total stranger in like a setting like that. Like for Halloween, I just like went out by myself and I like found this like weird darts place that was like tucked away to like a weird little corner on like a second floor. And I just started talking to random people there and kind of made some friends, but they never messaged me later. So sorry, that was a bad story.
One of the weird things, Lordy, and maybe you'll probably back me up on this, is that if you are okay, so there's a big difference between the type of person who goes out occasionally to potentially hook up and tries to like look hot when they're single and crap, and like hipster guys or hipster girls who go out regularly and usually look pretty good, but like they just go out all the time.
Yeah.
And there's like a huge difference.
Yeah.
If you're a fairly good looking, you know, like if you're a good looking guy, girl on a bad night, who happens to go out a lot, you never hook up pretty much, because you just like don't sleep with randos. It's just like a thing that you just, it's like, no, like, who the fuck are you? I have no idea. Yeah. And like,
you can't actually meet anybody in that space. It's like you can't even fucking see them. It's so
well, and you could, and sometimes you even think they're hot, and sometimes you want to, but you don't want to let your friends know that you went home with this rando. It's like
optics are everything.
Yeah, and so like you like turn down all this like potentially good sex, and like maybe I've even seen you turn down good sex. Maybe you've even seen me turn down good sex, like where it's like, yeah, that guy was actually totally hot, and he was maybe even visiting from some place, and you've never had to see him again. But at the same time, 5 or 6 people would have seen me go home with them, and they would have thought that that was trashy, and so I didn't do it.
Yep, totally, all the time.
Yeah,
I mean, I got getting just the fact that like a couple weeks ago I got groped by my ex in front of all of our friends was enough. I was like, no, not about it.
Yeah. So that is the thing, and that's like, I think that people who I would say that over 85% of people probably aren't in that like regular bar attending hipster crowd that is always going out to these bars. Because like when you show up to a new city, like if you go to a city that you're visiting or you're moving to, you see all these like sexy people who are all fashionable, and then after like 6 months, like 93% of them are eliminated from a potential dating pool because you're like, oh, wait, this person's always here.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody knows them, and they do work in, you know, photography, so they always have a cute outfit, and so like, okay, I get it. I'm never gonna, I can't have sex with this person. If I have sex with that person, every one of their fucking friends will know.
Yeah.
Within 3 days, and they know like 600 people that I know. Like, I'm not exaggerating exactly.
Yeah, this is true. These are the politics.
Yeah, and so like I because I've run into numerous times on YouTube. I've run into people scoffing at me for like I've been on straight guys channels who for live streams and stuff who were not particularly good looking, and it wasn't even necessarily that they weren't good looking so much as just that I think a lot of their audience is people that doesn't go out a lot and stuff. And I would talk about how like I used to have sex a lot when I was younger, and I was kind of embarrassed by that, you know. Like I like at this point, like it's kind of embarrassing to think about, and they made fun of me for feeling that way, and I was like, there's so much to know about how the actual culture like really works if you're in the thick of it in New York and San Francisco as a gay guy, and like, hey, you know, maybe there are some good looking guys. Well, no, there definitely are. There definitely are some good-looking guys who, for whatever reason, have to work 60-hour weeks just to live in San Francisco and New York, and they still decide that it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they almost never go out to bars, and so they're kind of removed from that equation. But then there's like the other 85% of good-looking guys that are in San Francisco and New York who you see out at the bars all the time. So
yeah, everyone's out and everyone knows each other. It's weird when I go out a lot to,
and they're all good-looking.
Yeah, well, at least they know how to dress for the club and do their makeup or do their style so that the lights and everything works for them.
There's somebody for them.
Yeah,
every night.
Yeah, and I go to a lot of the like quote unquote straight or just like not gay clubs where there are plenty of but it's San Francisco, so there's always gays around, and being around, like being on the dance floor, and then when there's like that attractive energy between the people who are there to hook up, and they're like also usually really drunk, and they're like mobbing each other at that random hour, and you're like, fuck, like, like where do I go? I just want to dance, or like
yeah. Usually when it gets to be about 1:15, they all leave.
Yeah.
And then the last 45 minutes is like everybody trying to find a Coke party.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, we all know each other. Who got Coke?
Right, you're just figuring out what your next destination is going to be. Yeah, and there's such a weird energy behind that because like I am like in a scene of people that go out all the time. And like I was also in a relationship in that scene, and there would be this question of like, do we go out? Do we go to the after party, or do we go do the coupley thing and go home? Whenever apart from everyone else.
Oh my God, I had that. The guy that was I probably talked about a lot when I knew you. Wait, I don't know if I talked about him all that much. I'm trying to think. He was this older guy who had a name that was like a food product that I used to talk about a lot. Okay, so he was actually like really, really hot. And he was actually pretty cool too. Like, I don't know if I would think he was cool now because I was always like, I had drug problems when I thought he was cool, and like, no, he was overall pretty cool. I just don't know if I would be like really into him,
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be his friend, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't have like not had sex with him because most people would have sex with him. He was pretty cute. But yeah, it was a thing where like we would go out and like one of us would be like, because we were always open, like we were open the whole time that we were dating. And if one of us was talking to someone, it was always this thing where it was like, oh yeah, are you gonna? Oh yeah, what's going on with that guy? Well, I don't know. I'm gonna stick around and talk to him more. And it was so drawn out and so tedious and so like there's no great way of describing like how horrendous that feeling always was. Like, because like if it was me that was talking to someone, usually, or I would say pretty much unanimously, I was not actually more interested in that other guy than I was with him. It was just that I was, I was trying to prove to him that I was into these other guys, and, and then you would go through the course of the next week, and people would be like, "Oh, did you go home with that other guy, or did you go home with your guy?" And blah blah blah, and people would always know about it. Like they would know.
Everyone's paying attention.
Yeah,
it's wired in, So I'm living that right now, and like that's what happened the previous week, where I like saw my ex at the club, and we were all over each other, and he's like being very obvious in front of all of his friends, and then I'm like, so are we hanging out after this? And he like totally
blows me off.
Oh, is this what you're talking about with Karen?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so okay, but see, the thing that you were leaving out of that story was that he was your ex.
Well, I may have mentioned it very quickly, but yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't hear.
Yeah, well, and he was, and that's why it was like there was a line though, and the way I felt,
Okay, so he clearly just wanted to know if you were still into him.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah,
No, that had to have been what that was.
yeah. Well, it wasn't a mystery. We had already had like
No,
makeup,
it's always
you know.
a mystery. It's always a mystery.
It's always a mystery.
Always a mystery. Like
Yeah.
because the difference between somebody who's like theoretically still sexually attracted to someone and someone who's willing to do the dirty,
Yes,
is a big difference.
There you go. That's that.
well, yeah, so we're in this really interesting situation where we're still interested in each other and we're still friends, but we're not having sex.
Oh.
We just got a new comment. Why wasn't our Prince Baron there? Referring to the State of the Union. I agree. I'm also angry.
Oh, okay.
Baron is the Prince of America. He should have been there. Where is he?
So, okay.
They better not get a body double for him.
I say this not disparagingly about him. Like, I have no problem with the kid. But like, am I not the only one that's imagining him as this like Macaulay Culkin kid that's gonna like throw beer bottles on door people at hotel rooms?
Okay, but Macaulay Culkin ended up turning out really, really well adjusted. He had like a valley and came out of it.
It took a really long time though. Okay, but so wait, well, okay, no, but what Lordy was just saying, I just want to say real quick, there's two ways to come out of this situation about this thing where you are how did you finish that sentence again? How did you, do you remember?
We're not having sex.
Okay, so you're not having sex, but but he wanted to know that you wanted to have sex with him again.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's actually there's many different ways that can end. Okay, so I can't try to sum that up. Yeah, that's an open-ended question. I can't be the guy that sums that up.
Yeah. Anyways, it's only on my mind because I'm actually going to depart, and this is probably a good moment for me to do that.
Okay.
I'm about to go live the life of the nightclubs and have some fun this evening.
See, viewers, there's people who actually still do go out. Can you believe it? I know. You know what the thing is with me? If in fact and people are all, of course, telling me that I should delete my Facebook, like I had brought up as a proposition. I might start going out to gay bars again. And one of the reasons that I might start doing that is because the thing is, I know, like, my name, my first and last name is something that like you could yell that at a bar and people would perk up, like 5 people would raise their head and then they would be like, huh? What are you saying about him? Like, some people will be like, that's my friend, I used to know him. And some people will be like, I hate that guy, I want to beat him up. Like, it's just and I'm not saying that as some sort of a self congratulatory thing. I used to make jokes about me being controversial, and then some people that I would know would be like, oh, it's true, I've been at parties and people would say his name and people would be like talking shit about him, and some other person from across the room would say, oh, he's my friend though, he's really cool. And I was like, oh, really? That's what it's like? So but if people had no internet connection to my name that was widely spread of over thousands of people, I could start going out to bars and I could just say, hey, my name is blank, not Prince, but what actual blank, and people would be like, okay, cool, and they wouldn't think twice because it's been long enough. They don't know what my voice sounds like, and I could start attempting to integrate in gay culture. And one of the things I've noticed is that gay guys are way stupider on the internet at the moment. I think like smart gay guys are just afraid to ever express themselves because it became that way. Like you could never say how you really thought because the intersectionals and just the general racists and sexists would always shout you down and say like, shut up. White people are horrible. Men are horrible. Be quiet or we'll make you sit at the back of the bus. And but every time I would go out to bars and guys would get a little bit drunk, they'd be like, oh, yeah, I hate this. Like trans people trying to act like they're the only ones who are oppressed. Like we grew up being gay guys. Like I remember. And so I'm thinking like it would be cool to start going out to gay bars again. Because I mean, Lordy knows me. Like I have no problem charming the pants off of a room full of 10 fucking people. Mm-hmm. It's easy for me. It's fun for. I mean, they might make fun of me when I leave, but like I have them eating out of my hand for at least 30 minutes.
Yes, do it. I want to hear about it. Come back with stories.
Karen actually mentioned that she used to, like when she was flying out to give a speech or a talk or whatever, people would ask like, "Oh, so what do you like?" She's making like small talk to someone on an airplane, right? And at first she used to try to kind of like be really generic about it because she wasn't sure if she was going to offend whoever she's talking to. And she said, well, more recently, she just says like, I'm an anti-feminist. I'm going to give a speech about men's rights and men's issues. And she found that typically the response is really, really positive. People are like, oh, I'm really glad to hear that. And I started trying to do that. And it does work. Even just like the other night, I just mentioned like I mentioned, like, oh, I have to leave because I'm going to get up early in the morning to be on a podcast. Like, oh, you do a little podcast? I'm like, yeah, it's just a little podcast. It's, like gay things, but very anti-feminist. And he's like, oh, anti-feminism. That's really interesting. And yeah, I just like mentioned, like, yeah, I think feminism is a mistake from the very beginning. Like nothing about it's good, basically. Like, and they're like, oh, that's really interesting. Like they're not like, oh, like you're fucking evil. Like a lot of people, like if, you can kind of tell, if a person's going to be someone who, and you can kind of like a lot of people, most people are woke to the fact that like the pay gap is a myth, right? And like the perspective that feminism started out okay and then went off the rails. Most people, it seems, are really sympathetic to that view. So if you take the stance that it was always bad, it's actually not even that much further. Like a lot of people kind of have a little purple pill phase of that, but the purple pills are out there, and if you aren't afraid of upsetting a few blue pillars, like you can definitely flip some red pills. So
yeah, you just have to be on the lookout for like the guy that might want to talk to you, but he's with his like ugly wife or something. It's like, oh, be careful of that guy. But
I'm really good at code switching.
I think I am too. No, you know what was funny is that like I've been okay, I'll just say what I've been doing because there's no great way of like link. It would be some major hacker ass shit to figure out this. So I've been going to physical therapy because I have back problems. And I figured out that my health insurance actually covers physical therapy for my back problems. So I've actually been going, and I showed up to my first appointment. And it turns out that they want me to go twice a week, which I didn't realize. I thought it was just like I was going to go in and they were going to teach me some, exercises, come back in once a month or something. And they're like, no, you have to literally come back in twice a week. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool, but it's kind of like having a personal trainer. And the main guy that I've been working with is an intern who is like studying at the University of Washington. And or I don't know what his university is. So if you try to hack him, I don't know. But it's in my area. And he's actually he is really into video games, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about with like the current video games because he's younger, B, he's also like really cute. Like he has to know he's cute because he's like model looking cute. Like he's really, really cute. And so I was obviously kind of like eager to talk to him at all. And then it turned out that he used to play Overwatch, currently doesn't play Overwatch because he's moved on to new games. And so we had all sorts of stuff to talk about. And so it was like I think because he's an intern, especially, like interns are like look forward to going to their job and stuff, you know, because that's what it's like to be an intern. So I started talking to him, and somehow I mentioned that I was gonna have the stream with Karen, and he was like, "Oh yeah, what's her big?" Because I told her, I told him, "Oh yeah, it's a YouTuber with over 200,000 subscribers," and he was like, "Oh, that's cool. What about?" And I was like, she is a men's rights advocate, and she really hates feminists." And he's like, "Oh, you don't hear about that a lot." And I'm like, "Well, you don't hear about it in this state." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I'm from Florida, so I've heard about it." But he was trying to like keep his voice down. I think he didn't want to upset anyone in the room. And then we end up kind of talking about it. And it was this kind of funny thing where he, right before I left, he was like, "Yeah, so we probably have a lot to talk about about politics at some other time, but maybe not here." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I totally understand." And it was this like funny thing where I think that he was trying to imply that he like was on my team, you know, like so
Nice.
yeah.
Well, I had even today. There was a rooftop gathering going on, and all my friends, I had to tell all of them that I was participating in this podcast in order to talk about gay political issues and men's rights, and so yeah, it's and they all don't give a fuck because they party and don't care about politics, and so that's why I hang out with them.
And that's the biggest thing that everybody needs to actually remember about leftists. Even when leftists think that they're winning, they still don't care about politics. Like, because leftists are generally people that are younger who don't have a lot of like they're not raising families, they're not thinking about the future and politics and stuff, they're idealists and stuff. So even if they think that they agree with the left about everything, they still accept the fact that they don't really know.
Yeah, they just think I'm kind of silly that I didn't go to the party and chose to do this instead. And that's just because you know, I actually care about, you know,
yeah, and
society.
Yeah, and I think that when it comes down to the 2020 election, and you know, these people who, I mean, maybe some of them just assume that Trump is going to lose because that's what everyone's telling them. When he doesn't, because I can't imagine who would possibly beat him. You know, when that doesn't happen. They're going to be like, okay, so hey, you were the only person that was saying, yeah, there is another option, and I want to hear about it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good way to end this episode of on Gaytriarchy without Chadwick Moore. I'm so sorry, you guys, that Chadwick wasn't here. He's a wonderful, engaging person to talk to. I will be hounding him. Maybe he will come back next week. I had someone that I reached out to, might want to come on next week, but I will be hounding Chadwick about your sadness that you may or may not have expressed in the chat, and hopefully you guys will get a chance to talk to him soon. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I will be putting out new videos over the next couple of days, and if you guys have anything to say it quick.
Shout out to the Barron Trump fans out there. We all know that Barron Trump is a time traveling badass. So that's what I'll say. I'm partying and have some fun, guys.
That's right. Eat some chicken tendies in his honor. Also, I'm gonna make a video about makeup and ecofeminism.
No, okay, but not before you do the one about does men's
right.
right?
Are you going on a break like sometime soon that I should like work on that?
Yeah.
Soon? When are you thinking? Do you have a good time for this?
Within the next week.
Okay.
Can you get it done in a week?
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah, my issue is less time and more just like sometimes I'm lazy. So
okay, I'm stopping.